Deep within the demon stronghold, blood paints the grand hall red, as an entire rebel noble family lies completely slaughtered. The sole survivor crawls through the body-littered floor, trembling and screaming at the killer for committing such an atrocious massacre. Unfazed by the traitor's desperate curses, Rabas Vindika steps forward, his clawed hand dripping with fresh blood. He coldly reminds the dying noble that this isn't a massacre but a rightful execution carried out by the royal house. With a terrifying crimson glow in his eyes, the demon prince unleashes a surge of dark aura, brutally executing the rebel leader where he kneels. Later at the royal throne room, our boy sits bound in massive stone chains before the assembled demon lords. The great demon king boils with rage, furiously berating his reckless son for wiping out the entire estate instead of simply bringing back evidence of treason. Great demon king Gamadare Vindika explodes with rage, accusing his reckless son of shattering the realm's order by unilaterally wiping out a noble house. Unmoved by the heavy chains, our boy barks right back, arguing that House Helt was hopelessly corrupt and that endlessly collecting evidence only let traitorous crimes go unpunished. The king sternly fires back that execution requires strict royal procedure, dismissing his son's rogue judgment, only for the prince to laugh in complete disrespect. Invoking the ultimate law of the demon realm, that darkness must be swallowed by deeper darkness, Lil Bro challenges the throne itself, demanding how Vindika can rule if it flinches from true power. He furiously calls out the scheming nobles seeking to usurp the crown, but the old king coldly scoffs at his short-sighted foolishness. Surging with dark aura, our boy reminds his father he was sent as an investigator to crush cowardly traitors, leaving the monarch in heavy silence. Realizing his son won't yield, the great demon king declares that the council has already decided his fate. For defying royal order and wiping out House Helt, Rabas Vindika is sentenced to banishment in the human realm. The demon prince gapes in utter disbelief. Unshaken by his protests, the king orders his demonic power sealed away, forcing him to learn true dignity among mortals. Bound in heavy chains, our boy fiercely screams that he spared the traitor's souls, but the king coldly commands the executioners to enforce the sentence at once. Hooded sorcerers instantly channel spell circles around the captive prince. As glowing runes lock onto his body, Lil Bro rages against the judgment, refusing to accept exile. A lead sorcerer slams a sealing mark directly into the prince's forehead, triggering an agonizing scream. The mocking caster whispers a sinister farewell, promising to guard the realm while our enraged hero is violently banished into the unknown. With a blinding surge of magical energy, the dimensional spell violently tears through Rabas Vindika as dark runes lock his soul away under strict exile conditions. Moments later, our boy violently snaps awake, gasping for breath inside a quiet human bedroom, staring down at his pale, trembling hands in utter disbelief. He clutches his throbbing forehead in rage, realizing he was truly banished to the mortal world where any violation means permanent soul annihilation. Recalling the arrogant smile of court sorcerer Von Bay, Lil Bro grinds his teeth, swearing to rip out that bastard's horns the second he finds a way back to the throne. Making matters worse, his newly acquired human vessel feels completely battered and aches with excruciating pain in every joint. Standing up to inspect his fragile frame, the banished demon prince furiously curses the useless Helt nobles for leaving him trapped in such a weak, pathetic body. Disgusted by the air in the mortal realm, Rabas complains about the lack of sulfur, only for a young girl to suddenly burst into his bedroom. Sobbing with relief, she tackles him into a desperate hug. Stunned by the unexpected embrace, our boy realizes she must be this human vessel's younger sister. Their mother rushes to the doorway, weeping tears of joy for her son Minho. Trapped under their emotional outburst, Lil Bro grimaces, questioning how he can survive in this pathetic realm. Heavy footsteps signal the entry of the household patriarch. Stepping into the room, the father locks eyes with Rabas, radiating a surprisingly cold, menacing authority. Showing zero sympathy, the father bluntly commands him to report to school tomorrow, instantly shutting down the mother's worried objections before walking away. While his sister checks on him, our boy stares after the man, sensing a ruthless, dark aura that feels surprisingly unhuman. Rather than taking offense, the banished prince breaks into a sinister smile. Finding genuine respect for such a cold tyrant, Lil Bro realizes the human world might be interesting after all. Resolving to lay low until this host's memories return, our boy is dropped off outside high school, forced to navigate the absurd everyday life of mortals. Recalling his education in the demon realm 6 centuries ago, the former prince fumes in utter disgust, concluding that human school is nothing short of pure hell. Sliding into classroom 2-3, Lil Bro decides to play the model student for now, knowing any violation under the exile seal means instant soul annihilation. Crushing house help bought him precious time. Now he must find a way back home to claim his father's throne before rival nobles threaten the royal family again. His plotting is abruptly interrupted when two local bullies approach his desk and grab his collar, aggressively demanding overdue fees. To his utter shock, Minho's fragile mortal body instantly flinches on instinct. Traumatic suppressed memories suddenly surface, revealing how this pathetic vessel was viciously beaten and stepped on by a terrifying gang of student thugs. A traumatic memory flashes back, Minho lying beaten and bloody on the floor. The demon prince realizes this host's body wasn't aching from dimensional exile, but from these wretched thugs. Back in the classroom, the arrogant thug smirks while patting Rabis's head like a helpless dog, demanding overdue payment to prove their so-called friendship. As the punk roughly grabs his hair, our boy freezes in complete disbelief, realizing a mere mortal is physically putting hands on him. See, 6 centuries ago at the Demon Academy, his instructor projected human illusions, teaching that mortals are endlessly vulgar beings desperate to hide their weak nature. While foolish humans prayed to angels and demons alike, a young Rabis bluntly argued that such pathetic creatures should just be burned to ash. Surging with dark aura, the teacher wildly commanded him to ruthlessly crush human vulgarity whenever he encountered them. Snapping back to the present, our boy clenches his fists on the desk, fury burning in his eyes. How dare a mere human lay a hand on him? Without a single second of hesitation, Rabis snaps. He violently grabs the arrogant thug's head and smashes his face straight into the desk, pinning him down cold before the entire shocked classroom. As the second thug roars in rage, a terrifying crimson glow suddenly flares in Rabis's eye. Despite the heavy exile seal on his soul, his suppressed demonic power unexpectedly sparks back to life. The punk hurls a furious punch, but Lil Bro effortlessly sidesteps the blow. Realizing that human malice and vulgar profanity actively awaken his locked demonic energy, our boy clenches his fist with a ruthless grin. Channeling that surge of dark energy, Rabis lands a devastating counterstrike. The punk flies backward and crashes violently into the lockers as horrified classmates freeze in absolute terror. Staring down at his hand, the banished prince uncovers a game-changing loophole. While his magic remains sealed, it instinctively reacts to human evil, offering him a golden key to regaining his power. Classmates stare in utter shock, but the enraged punk grabs a metal chair to smash our hero from behind, triggering frantic warnings across the room. Unfazed, the demon prince calmly senses the incoming attack. Swiveling around in a blur, Lil Bro effortlessly sidesteps the swing and drives a devastating counterstrike straight into the punk's chest, shattering his assault in an instant. Collapsing to his knees while coughing up blood, the desperate thug hurls foul curses, only for Rabis to mock him for relying on weak profanity to hide his fear. Without missing a beat, our boy snaps his legs sky high and delivers a brutal axe kick, violently slamming the punk's head straight into the floor. As dark energy surges through his body, Lil Bro dryly chuckles, reflecting that human profanity is nothing compared to his royal mother back in the demon realm. With both terrifying bullies lying completely unconscious on the ground, horror washes over the classroom as stunned students whisper in absolute disbelief at Minho's monstrous power. Formulating his escape plan, Rabis flashes a sinister grin. All he needs to do is gather enough human malice to break his exile. As terrified classmates tremble before him, a glowing crimson eye flares to life. The demon prince chillingly dares anyone else in the room to swear at him. With a sinister crimson glow gleaming in his left eye, the demon prince taunts the quiet room, openly daring anyone else to step forward and insult him. The surrounding classmates tremble in absolute shock. Whispers break out across the hall, as nobody can comprehend how the frail weakling they used to walk over suddenly unlocked such monstrous power. Looking across the room, the former bullies lie completely wrecked on the floor like discarded trash. In one brutal display, the demon lord has entirely rewritten the school's food chain. The timid, four-eyed classmate nervously steps up to ask if he is okay. Recalling how this guy tried to defend him earlier, Rabis flashes a subtle grin, deciding this loyal kid is the perfect candidate to serve as his main mortal minion. Later that evening, as they walk back along the city streets, the hyperactive nerd begins blurting out wild guesses. He asks out loud if Minho got reincarnated into another world, catching the demon prince completely off guard. The kid doubles down, asking if he trained in a martial arts world or inside an online game. Rabis stares him down in cold silence, dead serious about whether this human somehow exposed his secret identity. See, back in the demon realm, his high-ranking mentor laid down an ironclad law. Murdering a human in the mortal plane will permanently extinguish a demon's soul, because their royal bloodline presides over death rather than mindless slaughter. Young Lavis pointed out that humans spend their whole lives destroying one another anyway, but his mentor dismissed them as mindless fools, and that inherent weakness is precisely why superior beings exist to govern them. Back in the demon realm, his high-ranking mentor laid down an absolute law. Murdering a mortal in the human plane permanently forfeits a demon's soul. But young Lavis completely scoffed at the warning, arrogantly boasting that a god of devils would never end up stuck in the human world anyway. Back in reality, our boy faces a serious tactical dilemma. If he cannot outright execute these annoying humans without destroying his own soul, keeping them quiet becomes far more complicated. Meanwhile, the four-eyed nerd rambles on about wishing he could wake up in an isekai fantasy, practically reeking of wretched misery. The cheerful kid assumes Minho just finally snapped after enduring years of relentless torment and praises him with total admiration, but receiving genuine compliments from a fragile human causes the proud demon prince to shudder in pure disgust. This level of casual disrespect is almost too much for him to swallow. Night falls over the city as Rabus retreats to his apartment to investigate his sudden power surge. A demon trapped inside a mortal shell is supposed to be completely powerless, yet dark magic clearly ignited the moment those bullies provoked him. He stares at his hand, questioning how this is possible. Looking at his dark energy, the exiled royal breaks into a smug, triumphant grin. He arrogantly concludes that his high-born bloodline is simply too powerful to be caged by a human vessel, foolishly declaring that nothing in this world can hold back the great Lavis Vindica. That massive ego lasts about 2 seconds before crippling agony violently rips through his entire body. The frail mortal frame cannot withstand the explosive surge of high-tier demonic mana, leaving our self-proclaimed god of devils writhing powerlessly on his bed as his muscles collapse under the strain. Exhausted and thoroughly broken from overusing dark magic, our boy lies in bed complaining that living inside a weak mortal shell is absolute agony. He swears he will not sleep a single second tonight due to the excruciating pain, only to instantly pass out and snore like a rock. The next day at school, the hyperactive nerd enthusiastically praises Minho for finally giving them a peaceful day without any bullies bothering them. But the exiled demon prince is totally unimpressed, complaining that he actually wants more enemies to show up so he can test his demonic powers again. Right on cue, a shady gang cuts them off in the schoolyard. The aggressive leader of the crew steps up with a smug smirk, revealing himself as the older brother of the bully Minho wrecked yesterday, demanding to know why his extortion target dared to strike back. Taking the thug's disrespect as another insult, Rabus beams with pure joy and proudly admits to thrashing the guy's little brother. When the gang orders him to follow them to an isolated area, our villain enthusiastically marches right alongside them, eager for a fight. They bring him to a secluded construction site, where the gang leader scolds his bruised younger brother for getting completely trashed by a weakling. He then turns back toward Minho with a cold, intimidating glare, asking the quiet student how he expects to survive this. The arrogant thug leans in close and repeatedly pokes Minho's forehead, mockingly asking if his mother taught him to hit nice friends like this. Instead of showing any fear, the demon prince flashes a sinister smirk, coldly agreeing that is precisely what he was taught to do. The arrogant gang leader mockingly pokes the quiet student's forehead, trying to intimidate him right in front of his crew. But instead of cowering in fear, Rabus stands his ground with a sinister smirk, viewing these childish insults as a welcome invitation to unleash absolute chaos. Recalling his mother's sinister teachings from the demon realm, Rabus snaps his hand up and locks the thug's wrist in an iron vice grip. His left eye ignites with crimson demonic magic as he violently twists the leader's arm back, causing the bully to scream in agonizing pain. With dark energy surging through his mortal body, our boy cocks back a heavy right hook that shatters the thug's jaw in a single blow. Before the leader can even process the brutal impact, Rabus grabs his hair and smashes his head directly into the hard ground. The younger bully trembling nearby watches in sheer horror as his unstoppable older brother gets completely dismantled in seconds. Sprawled out on the floor and covered in blood, the panicked leader frantically screams at his remaining gang members to jump the kid all at once. Surrounded by aggressive thugs, the exiled demon prince doesn't feel a single sliver of doubt. Seeing the entire mob charge at him together only deepens his sadistic grin, knowing that their malice will feed his crimson eye with even greater demonic power. Rabus transforms into a high-speed whirlwind of pure violence, blitzing the incoming thugs before they can even throw a punch. He rains down a relentless barrage of heavy blows that sends bodies flying across the dirt, systematically wiping out the entire crew in seconds. The terrified nerd screams in utter horror as our boy mercilessly obliterates the mob, leaving the construction site littered with broken thugs. Flexing his blood-stained fingers, Rabus exhales a calm breath, thoroughly enjoying the violent aftermath of the beatdown. The heavily bruised gang leader lies broken on the dirt, wheezing and spitting blood while his entire crew whimpers in agony. Standing victorious over the wreckage, the exiled demon prince takes a deep breath and coldly declares just how refreshing this utter destruction feels. Recalling his sadistic demon uncle, who originally gifted violence to humankind, Rabus dramatically raises his hands to the heavens to express his heartfelt gratitude. Meanwhile, his bewildered classmate watches in absolute shock, completely unable to comprehend what his bizarre friend is doing. Glancing down at the dusty floor, our boy notices a dark rat creeping out from a nearby wall, its eyes glowing with a sinister crimson light. Unbeknownst to Rabus, this creature is actively serving as a magical surveillance feed, relaying his every action back home. Far away in the demon realm, Rabus' brutal uncle sits triumphantly upon a throne of rock, watching the live magical projection through the rodent's eyes. Smirking in satisfaction, the devilish royal rests his foot on a slain monster, delighted to see his banished nephew embracing violence. Standing beside the throne, a mysterious hooded figure reveals the dark truth behind Rabus' reawakened magic. Instead of embedding a standard seal, they secretly implanted a volatile demon bloodstone into the prince's left eye, maliciously waiting to see how long his weak human vessel can survive. Completely unaware of the dark plot being woven from the shadows of the demon realm, Rabus gazes up into the sunset with a confident smirk, eager to unleash even greater chaos on the mortal world. Deep within the demon realm, news breaks of the prince's insane rampage. The young General Ravith completely wiped out the rebellious Hilt family, leaving even high-ranking demon lords stunned. But great demon King Gamadare showed zero mercy, ruthlessly banishing his relentless son down to the human world without a second thought. Gamadare rules by absolute power, enforcing a ruthless creed to keep the wicked in check. Yet Lord Varkan remembers when the young menace was just a brat crying for help. Now, cast into a human realm filled with exiled demon monsters, adapting won't be easy. That's why Varkan secretly gifted him the Bloodstone before his exile. Preparing the scrying vessel, the hooded attendant offers to project every sinner currently hiding in the human realm. Varkan grins with razor-sharp fangs, eager to watch the upcoming carnage. As dark magic surges into the basin, horrific figures emerge in the mist. Violent demon convicts now walk among humans, masked and bloodthirsty. With the exiled prince dropped right into their midst, a deadly clash with these monstrous sinners is completely inevitable. Leaning forward from his throne, Varkan unleashes a massive wave of dark magic straight into the pool, fueling the projection to hunt down his wild nephew. As dark magic surges around him, Lord Varkan grins with razor-sharp fangs, eagerly awaiting the chaos his banished nephew will cause. Cast into a human realm teeming with monstrous demon exiles, the young general is about to face true darkness. Meanwhile, inside a local eatery, the excited classmate hypes up the young prince for effortlessly beating Taewoo's brother. But our boy is locked in a fierce battle of his own, weeping tears from ultra-spicy food, while stubbornly claiming a demon never backs down. That playful mood vanishes the moment a phone call buzzes on the table showing the name Jin Jae-hee. The sight of the caller ID strikes pure terror into the friend, who stammers out an anxious excuse while our boy watches in confusion. In a frantic panic, the terrified classmate grabs his gear and bolts straight out of the diner. Left sitting completely alone, our exiled prince tracks his hasty departure with a cold, suspicious look before quietly resuming his meal. Meanwhile, down a dingy city alley, a shady tattoo shop hides dark business inside. An electric needle hums against flesh, ripping painful screams from a tied-down victim, while the ruthless artist coldly tells him to stop moving. Inside the back alley parlor, the sadistic Jae-hee finishes branding a deadbeat debtor's forehead with the mark of a thief. She leaves the man unconscious on the operating chair, casually adding another trophy photo to her wall of victims. Right on cue, heavy bodyguards drag the trembling classmate straight into the room. Jae-hee greets Lim Seon with a mockingly sweet grin, calling the terrified student over to admire her fresh carnage. Gloved hands violently grab Seon's jaw, forcing his eyes wide open to stare directly at the mutilated man. Jae-hee gleefully explains that anyone who fails to pay back their debts gets permanently branded like an animal. A dark aura flares behind her as she creeps into his space, demanding to know if their secret deal is progressing. Sion stammers in pure panic, making excuses that annoying bugs keep interfering. That terrible excuse earns him a violent strike across the face, sending his glasses flying. As the helpless student writhes on the floor, Jae-hee mocks his stupidity while her massive thugs pin him down. The bodyguards lock his wrist in a tight vice grip, crushing any chance of escape. Grasping the buzzing electric needle, Jae-hee prepares to carve her cruel instructions directly into his raw flesh. As Lim Xian screams in helpless terror, Jae-hee creeps in with a sadistic grin, brandishing the buzzing electric needle. Pointing straight to the mutilated debtor unconscious on the floor, she cold-bloodedly warns him what happens to anyone who fails her. Violently grabbing his hair, she demands that he complete their secret deal without fail, leaving the terrified student completely trapped in her debt ring. Late that night, Xian sits at his glowing desk, his hands hovering over the keyboard in sheer agony. He desperately questions if he should follow through, but knowing Jae-hee will ruin his life, he has no choice but to type. Meanwhile, across town, our exiled prince writhes on his bed in sheer agony. His pathetic human stomach is completely wrecked from the ultra-spicy meal, and his shoulder feels dislocated from a minor fight, driving him to rip off his shirt in disgust. Refusing to let a mortal body defeat him, the young general launches into a brutal workout. Pounding out push-ups and sit-ups, he roars through the blinding pain, swearing to rehabilitate this useless vessel into a formidable weapon. By the next morning at school, Xian stands motionless in the hallway, staring blankly ahead. Bound to a monster's order, his trembling hands reveal the crushing pressure mounting against him. Standing in the school hallway, Xian frantically clutches the illegal app device in sheer terror. Bound by Jin Jae-hee's ruthless ultimatum, he knows releasing it is far too dangerous, but disobeying her order means immediate destruction. As the student wrestles with his impossible dilemma, a sudden hand heavy on his shoulder makes him scream out in shock. Our exiled prince casually looms behind him, demanding to know why he looks so utterly terrified. Xian considers begging his strong classmate for help, but instantly shuts the thought down. Knowing Jae-hee's violent syndicate would brutally crush anyone involved, he resolves to bear the dangerous burden completely alone. Before Xian can step away, a distinct scent triggers the demon prince's sharp senses. Right on cue, an orange-haired student violently collapses flat onto the tile floor, sending waves of panic bursting through the crowded hallway. Xian kneels down to help Sung-yae, only to stumble backwards screaming in pure horror. Poisonous purple veins bulge across her contorted face as she coughs blood and twitches uncontrollably like a possessed corpse. Watching the horrific spectacle unfold, the little general's eye flares with a brilliant crimson glow. Pure demonic energy is surging inside a mortal body, proving that evil forces have already infiltrated the human realm. Panic surges through the hallway as a terrified student rushes to carry the twitching girl away. But as she sweeps past, Rabis catches sight of a distinct magical crest branded onto her exposed skin. His eye flares with crimson demonic power. That symbol belongs to the Hilt family, the very demon lineage he annihilated back home. Realizing a survivor is lurking nearby, he resolves to verify it at once. Later that night at the city hospital, the exiled prince sneaks down the quiet corridor toward room 1303. But just as his hand touches the door handle, a police officer on duty steps out to stop him. Refusing to back down, our boy leans right into her face. Channeling his dark energy, he unleashes a hypnotic mind spell, commanding total oblivion before she can even raise an alarm. The dark magic instantly paralyzes her mind, leaving the guard sitting frozen on the bench in a complete trance. With the perimeter secured, the little general quietly opens the door and slips inside. Even with his human body's meager mana, manipulating a mortal's mind remains effortless. Stepping over the threshold, he prepares to unmask the true culprit. Sung-yi looks up from her hospital bed, glaring in confusion at the hooded intruder in her room. But with razor-sharp fangs exposed, Rabis coldly demands to know who is really hiding inside her vessel. Sung-yi shrieks in anger as the hooded intruder suddenly grabs her arm, but our boy ignores her screams, violently pinning her wrist to expose the mysterious magical mark branded into her skin. Staring down at the exposed symbol, the little general demands to know why a mortal human bears the crest of the Hilt family, the very demon clan he slaughtered back home. His crimson eye flares with deadly killer intent. Coldly warning her to avoid a fate far worse than death, he orders her to reveal who is truly possessing her vessel. Sweat pours down her trembling face as sheer terror completely paralyzes her mind. Staring into the eyes of a true monster, she stammers out a desperate response. Dark magical energy violently erupts as the entity lurking within her reacts in horror. Smelling the young prince's lethal aura, the hidden demon instantly realizes it's standing face to face with a real high-tier demon lord. The terrified girl gasps in utter horror as our exiled demon prince locks her down in the hospital room, fiercely demanding the truth. Trembling violently, she completely breaks under his crushing gaze, confessing she received a sinister magic tattoo and strange pills just to gain entry into a mysterious crew. Gripping her wrist, Rabis catches a faint but unmistakable scent lingering on her skin. It is the distinct demonic aura of his homeland, proving dark forces from the demon realm are already operating in the human world. See, back in the demon realm, a young Rabus ventures deep down a colossal spiral staircase hidden inside the dark citadel. His bespectacled companion Banbei scrambles after him, urgently warning the prince that they are trespassing in a strictly restricted zone. The little general just flashes a devilish smirk, mocking Banbei as a total coward and telling him to beat it if he is so afraid of getting punished. Refusing to abandon the prince, Banbei nervously keeps pace down the dimly lit steps, terrified of what dangerous stunt the reckless young lord will pull if left unsupervised. Reaching a massive vaulted hallway, Banbei hesitatingly calls out to Lavis, clearing his throat to share a secret while the young prince casually demands he spit out whatever he knows. Banbei rambles about ancient lore regarding eyes that transcend species, nervously warning that wandering into complete darkness eventually rots a demon's vision. But our reckless young prince pays zero attention to the lecture, pressing further down the restricted vault. Silencing his aide with a single finger, Lavis detects an eerie presence lurking just around the corner. He peers into the shadows, where a bizarre purple flower sprouts directly from a pale corpse's hand pressed against the wall. Ignoring Banbei's frantic warnings that this area is far too dangerous, the fearless little general steps out into the open. He walks directly toward the mysterious bloom to investigate the threat up close. They discover the corpse of noble Jeremy Hilt stretched across the floor. He is completely dead, with horrific purple flowers sprouting straight out of his eye sockets, chest, and arms like demonic parasites. Without a shred of hesitation, our boy grabs the stalk and yanks it free. He pulls up blood-drenched, barbed roots while Banbei gasps in sheer terror, instantly identifying the cursed plant as the gnawing flower. Snapping back to the present, Rabus recognizes that exact demonic scent lingering on the girl's magic tattoo. As the terrified patient breaks down and begs for her life, our exiled prince stands over her in total, ominous silence. Outside the window, a demonic bat watches Rabus from the trees, taunting the exiled prince that he has already crossed paths with these dark forces and eagerly anticipating the chaos ahead. Tracking down the lead, our boy arrives in a secluded alley right outside Jin Jae-hee's tattoo shop, questioning if the overlap between the Hilt family crest and the gnawing flower is truly a coincidence. Deep inside the complex, a group of gangsters strolls through the corridor, revealing that their boss, Young Moo, is targeting a high school kid named Im Seon for his app while bragging about a dangerous new drug. His companion furiously warns him to stop popping the pills due to their horrific side effects, but the reckless thug brushes it off, marching straight past our silent prince. Catching that unmistakable demonic stench, Rabus locks eyes on the hilt crest printed directly onto the thug's neck. He bluntly asks if they received their tattoos from Jae-hee, bringing the gang to a sudden halt. Mocking the hooded intruder, the arrogant thug walks right up and grabs our boy by the chin, demanding respect for his elders in a crazy display of disrespect. That foolish mistake instantly ignites the prince's murderous fury. His eye flashes crimson as he retaliates without mercy, bringing swift judgment down on the unsuspecting thug. Without a moment's delay, Rabus slams the arrogant thug headfirst into the ground, dropping him instantly. As the rest of the gang stares in shock at their bloody comrade, an enraged thug screams, demanding to know who sent this hooded monster. The angry thug lunges with a wild strike, but our boy casually slips under his guard. Rabus unleashes a ruthless counterpunch straight into the thug's chin, sending him crashing backward in sheer agony. Desperate for payback, the third goon charges right in, only to meet a devastating fist straight to the jaw. But as he collapses, the last thug pulls a weapon, charging with a knife. Rabus's crimson eye flashes as he effortlessly weaves past the blade, launching a crushing high kick that flattens the knife wielder. Standing over the broken gang, our exiled prince coldly demands to know where Jin Jae-hee is hiding. Suddenly, dark demonic aura surges behind him. The fallen thug rises, his face grotesquely mutating into a psychotic monster drooling dark energy. Rabus senses the sudden spike, realizing the guy's demonic aura just got insanely stronger. The monster lunges with feral speed, forcing Rabus to dodge his wild claws. Realizing the blue pills dramatically boost physical abilities, our boy shifts his footwork, preparing to put this mutated threat down for good. The mutated goon leaps down from above with pure feral rage, screeching like a rabid beast as he closes the distance, leaving Rabus with no time to catch his breath. Uncorking a fist packed with dark demonic energy, the monster unleashes terrifying physical force. Rabus narrows his crimson eyes in serious focus, instantly recognizing the dangerous power boost granted by those cursed blue pills. Meanwhile, deep inside the gang's hidden lair, the crew reports to their lounging boss that the targeted app remains unfinished. But more importantly, they present a beaten, bound traitor who dared to embezzle their precious blue ribbon stash. Bound on his knees, the terrified traitor completely breaks down in tears, screaming hysterically and begging the gang leader for just one more chance to fix his mistake. Ignoring the pitiful pleas in total silence, the ruthless boss calmly reaches into a vase, plucking out a strange blue flower and lifting its sharp, jagged roots into the air. The helpless victim trembles violently as a heavy shadow looms over him. He weeps in utter horror, screaming out in sheer terror as he realizes no amount of begging can save him now. With a cold, unbothered stare, the gang leader raises the cursed flower high overhead, preparing to plunge it down and inflict a horrific fate upon the traitor. Without a single shred of mercy, the ruthless gang leader plunges the blue flower straight into the helpless traitor's head. Cursed demonic roots instantly dig deep into his skull, executing the traitor right before the horrified crew's eyes. Young Jin Jae-hee trembles in absolute horror as the victim shrieks and desperately begs for his life, but there is no escaping the parasitic bloom which rapidly consumes the man's body from the inside out. Blood splatters across the room as horrific blue flowers burst violently through the dead traitor's skull. Looming over the fresh corpse, the cold-blooded boss reminds his crew that failure in their syndicate comes with a mandatory death penalty. The surrounding goons freeze in pure terror, knowing a single misstep means their immediate execution. Locking his heavy, murderous gaze directly onto Jae-hee, the syndicate leader demands complete submission. He coldly orders the trembling tattooist to shut up and fetch the target right away. Completely broken by fear, Jae-hee stammers a quick agreement, desperate to avoid becoming the monster's next victim. Later that night, out on the dark city streets, Jae-hee scrambles in pure panic while making an urgent phone call. With the gang leader's murderous patience completely exhausted, the terrified youth realizes they are totally screwed if things fall apart. Desperate to survive the gang's deadly deadline, Jae-hee frantically dials high schooler Im Seon, screaming at him to pick up. Deep inside his quiet bedroom, the unsuspecting young developer turns from his dual monitors, hesitatingly picking up the buzzing phone with a nervous hello. Instead of his contact, a cold, ruthless voice speaks through the speaker. Standing victorious over 4 bloody gang members flattened across the alley pavement, our exiled prince calmly explains that the local thugs proved completely uncooperative with his interrogation. As the bewildered teen stammers in sheer confusion, Rabus locks his glowing red gaze into the dark, coldly asking if the kid knows Jin Jae-hee. The hunt continues as our demonic prince prepares his next move. Standing over a hallway littered with unconscious thugs, our boy doesn't waste a single second. He presses his terrified friend over the phone, demanding to know Jin Jae-hee's address after seeing her name pop up on the screen. His informant panics, warning him to stay away, but the banished prince moves on his own terms. He confirms he's right outside her tattoo shop, only to find it completely empty, right before a faint sound draws his attention down the corridor. Sitting on the stairwell is a bizarre white cat, trembling like it knows exactly who's standing there. His friend yells one last frantic warning to avoid Jae-hee at all costs before snapping the call dead, leaving him in total silence. Ignoring the warning completely, the demon prince closes in on the shivering animal. The creature tries desperately to act like a normal pet playing with a bell, but our boy looms overhead, making it clear he's speaking directly to it. He grabs the fake pet by the scruff of its neck without hesitation. Holding the sweating creature inches from his face, he interrogates it directly, refusing to play along with its weak act. When it tries to play dumb, Rabus unleashes a burst of raw demonic aura, his left eye blazing red with deadly intent. Terrified by the crushing pressure, the little creature shrieks back in plain human speech. Rabus calls out its past disguises, noting it was a rat and a bat before taking this feline shape. Cornered and outmatched, the creature reveals her true identity, an official monitor dispatched straight from the demon realm to watch his every move. The cat stammers out its official mission to monitor human world convicts from the shadows, yet behind its nervous excuses, the tiny spy remains completely bewildered as to how a banished prince with suppressed demonic aura could spot it so effortlessly. Our boy blunt forces the reality check. The idiot was literally walking around upright on 2 legs like a human. Realizing there is zero point in interrogating a brainless proxy, the demon prince cuts the game short. Flashing his left eye with terrifying crimson intent, Rabus orders the true puppet master behind the beast to step up directly. The cat's eyes snap vibrant red as a direct psychic link connects straight to the demon realm. Lying back in his opulent estate back home, a green-haired demon aristocrat named Banbei smiles through his sunglasses. The shadowy nobleman takes direct control of the feline medium, praising Rabus for seeing right through his little game. Recognizing his shifty acquaintance instantly, Lil Bro calls Banbei out for pulling another sketchy stunt. Banbei acts completely offended at being named a schemer, casually brushing off the anger while the demon prince demands absolute truth. Pivoting straight to business, our boy questions how exiled criminals are actively unleashing raw demonic energy in the mortal world. Speaking through the cat, Banbei slyly notes that absolute rules always come with dangerous loopholes. Ignoring the vague evasion, Rabus exposes the horrifying truth he sensed back at the shop, the unmistakable stench of the devouring flower. This deadly, blood-soaked plant is strictly outlawed across the entire demon realm, yet its toxic corruption is actively spreading right here on Earth. Banbei reveals that top administrators back home already know about the uprising. The illegal beasts belong to the notorious Hilt family, the exact rogue faction Rabus previously slaughtered. Hearing that remnants are actively hiding on Earth, the demon prince realizes banished nobles are stirring up trouble in the mortal realm. The green-haired nobleman grins slyly from his throne, calling the human world a stage crawling with deadly conspiracies. Seeing a convenient opportunity, Banbei suggests a cold-blooded task. Since our boy is already down there, he should step up and wipe out every last enemy on the list. The monitor shrieks in confusion, but Banbei abruptly snaps the psychic link shut. Left with a pathetic cat meowing in terror, the banished prince glares down with lethal crimson intensity. He realizes he's being pushed straight into another war. Elsewhere in a dark back alley, a heavily tattooed woman named Jin Jae-hee snaps with fury. Horrified that Seon is completely ignoring her frantic calls, she screams into her phone, completely fed up with his reckless disappearance. Refusing to wait around, Jae-hee dials her squadmate Song-jun while he's busy playing games at a PC bang. She orders him to abandon his station and head straight to the office, marching out with lethal resolve to track down the missing kid herself. With the psychic connection severed, our boy immediately presses the cat monitor on its knowledge of the human realm. When the creature stammers, Rabus cuts through the excuses and demands it return to its true form, unleashing a menacing aura that terrifies the tiny spy into instant submission. Bursting in a brilliant flash of magical light, the feline shapeshifter finally drops its pet facade and reverts into a blue-haired demon girl. She lands gracefully right before him, but the banished prince barely blinks, ruthlessly judging her weak presence with total disdain. Sitting calmly on the stairwell, Rabus figures Banbei must have sent this rookie for a reason and asks for her name. The trembling demon lowers her head in embarrassment, confessing that a low-ranking spy like her was never given an actual name of her own. Without dropping his stern demeanor, Lil Bro casually names her street to remind her of where she was found. Touched to her core, the blue-haired demon bursts into pure excitement, beaming with joy as she vows complete obedience to Lord Rabus. Under the cover of night, Rabus wastes no time ordering Street to lay out every detail about how the human world operates. Meanwhile, miles away, Seon's panic-stricken informant sprints through the city streets at top speed, desperately praying he isn't too late to save his friend. Across town, the real Seon runs happily down the sidewalk, tightly clutching a fresh bouquet of flowers alongside his trophy after winning the app challenge. But his triumphant moment is cut short as a mysterious van pulls up, leaving him cornered by a sinister group of thugs out in the cold. A fresh bouquet of flowers is instantly ruined as a group of shady thugs surrounds the real Seon on the sidewalk. Before the clueless kid can even process what's happening, the criminals order him loaded up immediately, dragging him away as his trophy flowers crash onto the cold pavement. Shoved into the back of a waiting van, the trembling creator finds himself cornered by a tattooed mobster. A briefcase snaps open beside him with 50 million won in cash, demanding he surrender his app. But when the boy stammers that it wasn't made to be sold, the criminal refuses to take no for an answer. Cold, ruthless eyes glare down at the helpless creator, making it dead clear that this isn't a friendly deal. It's a forced takeover. Realizing he has zero control over his own fate, our boy collapses into the seat, shaking in total terror as the van rolls away. Meanwhile, across town, the panic-stricken informant sprints through the dark streets at breakneck speed. Gasping frantically for air, he pushes his body to the limit, desperately praying he can reach the location in time to stop his friend from running straight into Jin Jae-hee's path. But mid-sprint, total disaster strikes. The informant slams full force into a towering enforcer blocking the sidewalk. He stammers out a quick apology, but his blood turns to ice when the stranger glares down, sinisterly declaring that their hunt is officially over. Cornered in the dim alleyway, the terrified informant slowly backs away as massive hitmen close off every escape route. Jin Jae-hee steps out from the shadows with a bloodthirsty grin, completely mistaking the shivering kid for Seon and ruthlessly declaring his time is up. The terrified informant gasps in sheer horror as Jaehee's ruthless crew completely corners him, leaving the helpless kid trapped in a deadly ambush with zero chance to escape. Seon finds himself trapped in a living nightmare, held hostage by a ruthless gang demanding he operate his app for their scheme. Under threat of permanent captivity, the terrified developer can only scream in vain as his captors lock the door, warning him never to step out of line. Left helpless on the floor under the cold gaze of a ruthless guard, terror completely overwhelms our unfortunate hacker. Watching his freedom slip away in an instant, he crumples in pure despair, paralyzed by the grim realization that his life is officially over. Outside the room, the thugs openly mock their pathetic captive, doubting whether such a clueless kid could actually build anything useful. Yet they know his creation, a simple location tracking app called I'm Here, holds the key to launching their entire illicit operation. Shoved forcefully back in front of his computer screen, Sion is compelled to prepare his system under heavy duress. Crying tears of utter humiliation, the young developer breaks down at his desk as he witnesses his innocent project being evil repurposed into a weapon. The target of their syndicate scheme is I'm Here, a harmless location-sharing platform originally built for ordinary users, now about to be hijacked by the underworld. The syndicate leader arrives to oversee progress, confirming that Sion's software is the core centerpiece of their narcotics ring. By exploiting buyer information and gathering data through the system, they plan to manipulate transactions and take absolute control of the entire illegal drug market. With the app's real-time location sharing, the syndicate can coordinate illicit transactions with deadly precision across the city. The crew grins with ruthless excitement, eager to finally begin flooding the streets with their signature product in earnest. As the boss gazes on with cold, calculating eyes, he holds up a piece of blue ribbon, their deadly custom narcotic. The trap is officially set, leaving our helpless developer right in the crosshairs of a dangerous criminal underworld. The syndicate moves to execute their sinister mass distribution scheme, eager to flood the entire city with their deadly payload. Disguised under the harmless appearance of wrapped blue candy, their custom narcotic blue ribbon is officially ready to roll out, fully weaponized by the precise real-time location tracking power of Sion's hijacked app. Over at the local high school, the syndicate's trap springs shut with ruthless efficiency. Lured in by absurd cash rewards for every new friend referral, excited students aggressively pressure their classmates to sign up and link their accounts, causing the hijacked app to spread like wildfire across the entire student body. Making matters far worse, the app features a predatory sign-up promotion, cunningly targeting teenage girls by advertising Blue Ribbon as a safe, government-certified diet pill. Completely unaware of the deadly illegal narcotic hidden inside the innocent packaging, unsuspecting students eagerly rush to claim their free promotional samples. Meanwhile, inside the syndicate's wrecked parlor, the gang celebrates as app registrations skyrocket beyond expectation in just a single day. But amid their illicit triumph, short-tempered gang boss Jaehee fumes with absolute fury, demanding to know who dared to trash her hideout while her thugs review the CCTV footage. When her confused henchmen check the security feeds, they encounter an utterly ridiculous sight. A bizarre oversized bat is caught right on camera, staring directly into the lens and completely blinding their surveillance network across every monitor screen in the security room. Switching to another camera feed only deepens the disrespect, as a smirking rat pops up on screen, mocking the hardened criminals right to their faces. Realizing their high-tech security system has been completely humiliated by stray animals, Jaehee completely loses her mind and flies into a rage. Her furious outburst is suddenly cut short when her second-in-command receives a critical phone notification. With the long-awaited major shipment of Blue Ribbon finally landing in the city, the gang immediately puts the mysterious animal sabotage on hold, ready to move out and kick off their massive drug rollout. As evening twilight settles over the city, banished demon prince Rabus Vindica corners his loyal servant Strit in a secluded alleyway. Stripping away her silly distractions and weight gain complaints, the former demon monarch sternly demands an immediate progress report on the high-stakes secret investigation he ordered. Strit excitedly boasts about her success, bringing Rabus's mind back to his recent encounter with an unconscious victim on the floor. Inspecting the strange blue candy wrappers left beside the fallen target, he instantly recognized a distinct, sinister scent that had no business existing on Earth. The substance matches the devouring flower, a parasitic demon plant eradicated back in their home realm that requires a living host to cultivate. Holding the mysterious blue pill, Rabus marvels with deep suspicion at how a wiped-out demon species managed to resurface inside the human world. Snapping back to the present, Strit reveals the dangerous substance is spreading through human society under the name Blue Ribbon. Disguised under innocent covers like diet pills and health supplements, it rapidly corrupts the public, even as Strit admits she failed to uncover its raw source ingredients. Furious at her partial report, Rabus glowers with terrifying dark menace, sending the small demon into an absolute panic. Desperate to avoid his wrath, Strit quickly suggests following the dense concentration of demonic energy radiating from massive transport trucks to track down the main factory. Unimpressed by her excuse, Rabus forcefully flicks her forehead and scolds her for not taking action immediately. Crying out in pain, a tearful Strit stammers that Lord Vanby explicitly instructed her not to move alone and to carry out the investigation side by side with Rabus. Hearing Vanby's name instantly sours the Demon Prince's mood even further, as his terrified follower trembles and begs for mercy, caught helplessly between two authority figures. Rabus stares down with cold dominance and demands she make her choice right now on who her true master is. Cornered under Rabus's overwhelming demonic pressure, Strit breaks down in tears, terrified of his wrath. But when the former monarch promises to elevate her beyond a lowly creature if she chooses him, vision of luxury and power flashes through her mind, shattering her allegiance to Vanby. Without a second thought, Strit throws herself onto the hard alley pavement and prostrates at his feet, pledging her blood and flesh exclusively to Rabus. Satisfied with her absolute submission, our Dark Prince smirks, reaching out his hand to formally seal her position as his personal subordinate. Just as Vanby's ghostly spirit pops up near Strit's ear to keep tabs on them, Rabus casually banishes the intrusive spy with a mocking grin. With his followers' undivided loyalty locked down, the Demon Prince commands her to lead the way toward the city's main surge of blue ribbon. Night settles over the outskirts as Rabus and Strit infiltrate a desolate shipping container yard hidden among the trees. Tracking the trail of corruption, Strit homes in on a single red container radiating intense demonic aura, only to find its steel doors tightly wrapped in heavy iron chains. Unfazed by the obstacle, Rabus sternly orders Strit to step aside and winds up a violent fist empowered by his awakening strength. With one effortless, shattering blow, he completely demolishes the heavy metal chains, forcing the massive container doors to slowly creak open into the darkness. The instant the interior is exposed, a nauseating foul stench hits them like a freight train. Both demons gasp in shock and cover their noses, struggling to endure the overwhelming foul odor spewing out from within the dark chamber. Staring into the dark room, they uncover massive stacks of sealed cargo crates, releasing thick, suffocating clouds of dark purple demonic aura. This foul cache is the Syndicate's main shipment of blue ribbon, officially putting Rabus right on the front lines of the underworld's operation. Strit recoils in utter shock, choking on the stench, while confirming that this massive haul is all blue ribbon. Confronted by the sheer magnitude of cargo stacked inside the shipping containers, the magnitude of the Syndicate's plan finally becomes clear. Staring down the mountain of corrupted product radiating pure dark energy, our Demon Prince narrows his eyes with deadly resolve. Whoever is behind this synthetic payload isn't just running a street hustle, they are staging a full-blown invasion right under his nose. See, back in the demon realm, our boy Rabus was forced to spar with his insanely ruthless uncle. The pink-haired maniac taunts the young prince for being pathologically weak, but little Rabus refuses to cower and snaps right back. That disrespect costs him instantly. Without pulling a single punch, the uncle drives a devastating blow straight past the kid's guard, crashing hard into Rabus's face and scattering blood across the rocks. Rabus groans in pain as the heavy impact hurls him backwards into thin air. With nothing to grab onto, the little general gets launched right over the steep canyon precipice, plummeting straight down into the shadowy gorge. Free-falling through the dark pit, Rabus curses the crazy brute with everything he's got. Up at the peak, his uncle just cackles in delight before leaping into the abyss to chase his nephew down. Our boy hits the ground hard, gasping for breath amidst the dust. The uncle lands right beside him to check if the kid survived, but as Rabus pushes himself up, both of them freeze in total shock. The floor of the gorge is a mass grave of rotting demon bodies. Pink devouring flowers blossom right out of their hollow eye sockets and jaws, revealing the grim fate of the missing demonic rebels. The horrific sight leaves our young prince completely frozen in sheer shock. Staring down at the flower-riddled corpses, Rabus recalls the sinister origins of these cursed plants and why they terrify both realms. When light and darkness first split the cosmos, rogue entities were born that could never coexist with either side. Ancient tribes watched in terror as the very first devouring flower bloomed over rotting remains, feeding on abandoned angels and slain demons. Driven by a destructive urge to ruin the world, the parasitic flora was deemed a cataclysmic threat. Back in the day, Rabus and his pink-haired uncle unleashed scorching hellfire to incinerate every last flower in sight. Snapping right back to the present, our boy stares inside a massive shipping container packed with crates. The Demon King purged the entire demon realm top to bottom, so finding a massive stash on Earth is completely unexplainable. Rabus reveals to his blue-haired assistant that these parasitic blooms first appeared right here in the human world. This middle realm blends light and dark together, making it an unmonitored sanctuary that connects everywhere. Human history claimed the weeds were wiped out long ago as well. Connecting the dots, our boy realizes that if they miraculously resurfaced in both worlds at once, someone deliberately orchestrated this nightmare. As his blue-haired subordinate ponders the sinister mastermind behind it all, our former demon lord clicks on a heavy flashlight, blinding his companion while illuminating the dark depths of the mysterious container. Suddenly, bright flashlights cut through the dark as the gang from the tattoo shop catches Rabus trespassing. The thugs recognize the intruder instantly, while his blue-haired assistant urgently points out their leader, Jin Jae-hee. Jae-hee furiously demands to know who trashed her shop and how they tracked down her secret operation. Unbothered by her rage, Rabus calmly asks if she manages these crates and if she even understands the deadly raw material she is peddling. The former demon lord sighs in exasperation. It might not be his responsibility to protect human lives, but leaving cursed parasitic flowers unchecked in this middle realm feels completely unacceptable. Threatening her incompetent crew with their big boss's wrath, Jae-hee reaches into her pockets and hands out blue-devouring flower petals as a special ration. Excited by the free supply, the thugs eagerly accept the mysterious blooms. The thugs greedily devour the toxic blooms as dark corruptive aura violently surges around them. Recognizing that a dangerous brawl is imminent, Rabus orders his low-mana assistant to fall back and hide inside the container. Infused with demonic power, the thugs transform into vein-bulging monsters with glowing eyes and razor-sharp weapons. With a sadistic smirk, Jae-hee commands her mutated mob to stomp the prince into the dirt. Crushing flower petals underfoot, the empowered thugs surge forward at full speed. Standing his ground without flinching, Rabus pities the foolish bastards who are completely blinded by an arrogance and power they can never hope to control. With demonic aura surging wildly across the yard, Rabus calmly welcomes the violent horde. As the flower-crazed thugs rush in with knives drawn, the little general parries the initial slash before driving a brutal kick straight into an attacker's jaw. Weaving through a flurry of lethal steel, our boy stays one step ahead of the reckless mob. Rabus effortlessly disarms another knife-wielding goon, slipping beneath wild attacks while maintaining absolute composure in the middle of the melee. However, the sheer weight of numbers catches up when a manic thug tackles Rabus around the midsection. Irritated by the pathetic disrespect, the former demon lord grits his teeth as he gets swept onto the hard ground. A vein-bulging giant attempts to pulverize the prince, driving a massive fist straight down into the dirt. Hiding behind the container door, Street screams out in sheer terror while Jin Jae-hee smirks coldly from above, savoring her crew's brutal assault. Driven by toxic flower power, the mutated mob swarms Rabus simultaneously with terrifying speed. Surrounded on all sides, our boy throws up his guard, blocking a rapid barrage of heavy punches that threaten to crush him. Feeling the heavy impact through his arms, Rabus realizes these goons consumed an even higher dose than the thugs at the tattoo shop. Acknowledging their unnatural physical strength, the young general springs off a heavy container, leaping backward to regroup and recalibrate his strategy. Grabbing an attacker by the collar, Rabus channels surging demonic aura as he violently slams the goon into a metal container wall. The devastating impact shatters the steel plating, sending shockwaves across the yard. Rabus unleashes a wave of corruptive dark energy across the battlefield. Overwhelmed by the suffocating haze, the mutated thugs double over, coughing up blood as their lungs burn from the toxic demonic atmosphere. Though Rabus despises the cheap stench of human evil, this foul atmosphere triggers a sudden surge in his dormant mana. As dark pink energy erupts around him, his demonic power reacts even more violently than before. Exploding forward with vicious speed, the little general drives a lightning-fast blow straight into a goon's face. Twisting his body mid-air, Rabus executes a seamless acrobatic flip to knock down the next incoming attacker. With his eyes blazing crimson, our boy grabs another flower-infused brute by the head and ruthlessly slams him face-first into the hard floor, cratering the ground in a bloody spray. Leaning back to dodge a sharp high kick, Rabus catches the attacker's foot mid-air and whips the thug overhead, crashing him back first onto the pavement. Holding the goon's ankle pinned to the dirt, the prince stomps his heavy heel straight through the target's knee joint, snapping the leg with a sickening crunch. The last massive brute rushes in screaming, swinging a desperate heavy right hook. Unmoved, Rabus delivers a devastating counterpunch straight through the giant's jaw, instantly knocking the monster unconscious. Ducking under a heavy blow, Rabas spins on a dime and drives a vicious counter straight into his opponent's jaw. Channeling raw demonic strength, our boy grabs a monster of a thug mid-strike and brutally suplexes him, driving the giant headfirst into the concrete with ground-shattering impact. Watching her entire reinforced squad get wiped out, Jin Jae-hee quakes in absolute disbelief. How could a single high school kid crush her flower-empowered monsters without breaking a sweat? As Rabas tilts his head, a sinister crimson aura erupts, sending terrifying shockwaves that paralyze the gang boss in place. A toxic wave of dark pink mana bursts violently into the night air. Emerging from the shadows with demonic energy glowing from his eyes, the little general leaves every single thug broken and unconscious across the bloody asphalt. Shaking like a leaf, Jae-hee stammers in sheer panic, wondering if she's staring at a ghost or a true monster. But as Rabas's crimson eye locks onto her through the dark, the gang leader realizes she just provoked something far beyond human comprehension. At the grand ballet competition, stage mom Kang Hyunju sits inside her private lounge, watching her daughter Yuri perform on the screen, completely confident that landing a spot in the elite company is already guaranteed. Suddenly, an uninvited pink-haired dealer and his enforcer barge straight into her VIP room. Hyunju screams at the intruders to get out, but the thug casually slams a jar full of illegal blue pills onto her table. Horror paralyzes the ambitious mother as her panicked reflection stares into the glass container. The dealer assures her their syndicate handles production from start to finish, yet she trembles, asking if this illicit trade is truly safe. The dealer scoffs at her sudden attack of conscience. He coldly reminds her that she already pumped her own daughter full of those dangerous enhancers before sending her out to dance under the spotlight. Out on stage, Yuri twirls at frightening speeds, sweat pouring off her as the drug forces her muscles way past human limits. Her slippers pivot violently on point, accelerating straight toward physical disaster. Hyunju gasps in utter panic as the routine turns horrific. Yuri's eyes roll back into her head, thick veins bulge across her neck, and foam bursts from her lips before her arm reaches out into empty air. Back in the lounge, the ruthless dealer just smirks at the public collapse, coldly mocking the mother whose reckless greed just broke her own child on live TV. Driven beyond all human endurance by the illegal chemical overload, Yuri twirls at terrifying speed while foaming at the mouth. Up in the VIP suite, her mother screams out in absolute panic as the girl's ankles snap under the brutal force. With a brutal thud, the dancer crashes face first onto the wooden stage. The entire auditorium erupts into panicked murmurs as security freezes, while back in the room, Hyunju gasps in total horror at her daughter's ruined career. Lashing out in desperate rage, the hysterical mother accuses the syndicate of lying about the side effects. But the pink-haired dealer mockingly reminds her that she's the greedy one who pumped an overdose into her own child, leaving the girl foaming and twitching helplessly. Looking down at the glass jar of enhancers, the ruthless supplier sneers that the girl will now need these pills just to survive every single day. Her mother clutches her head in utter agony, realizing her reckless ambition just made her child their permanent slave. As Hyunju weeps on the couch in total defeat, a loud ring breaks the tension. The pink-haired boss casually reaches for his phone, answering a video call from his subordinate Jin Jae-hee. On the screen, a battered and terrified Jae-hee stammers out a pathetic apology before our reincarnated demon prince steps into view. Holding the phone high, Rabas stares coldly straight at the supplier, demanding to know if he's the trash responsible for manufacturing these blue ribbons. Rabas stares coldly through the video screen, immediately locking eyes with the syndicate boss. Before the shocked dealer can even process who hijacked the call, the demon prince demands an immediate face-to-face confrontation. Cutting the call, the pink-haired dealer turns back to the weeping mother on the couch. He coldly tells her that their deal is done for now, as an urgent problem just ambushed his operation. Outside a secluded shipping container, Rabas stands victorious over a pile of beaten syndicate thugs. Inspecting one of the blue pills in his hand, our boy sneers at human weakness, mocking how their foolish arrogance drives them to cling to fake power. Suddenly, his blue-haired demon attendant spots someone approaching through the dark woods. The terrified, bruised associate shouts out in desperate relief as his boss finally arrives on the scene. Youngmoo marches forward, flanked by heavy enforcers, demanding to know if Rabas was responsible for destroying their tattoo shop. But our boy completely dismisses the threat, coldly declaring he has zero interest in small-time trash and demanding the origin of the drug. With a sharp smirk, Rabas reveals that the magic inside these blue ribbons isn't something a mere human should ever be able to manufacture. The chilling realization hits Youngmoo like a truck, making him realize this kid is something far more dangerous than a normal student. The tension spikes to a boiling point as the dealer freezes, staring into the eyes of a true demon. Meanwhile, inside a dingy apartment, an unhinged youth aggressively kicks his unconscious father lying on the floor, demanding another fix of drugs. But as the old man lies completely motionlessly with blank, glazed-over eyes, the reckless brat freezes in sudden horror, realizing his father might have actually died. Instead of feeling an ounce of grief, the scumbag curses his father for dying so conveniently and ruining his supply line. Overwhelmed by sheer withdrawal, panic, and rage, our unhinged addict starts violently stomping right onto the dead man's head, screaming at the lifeless corpse in a pathetic meltdown. As his desperate tantrums echo through the room, crackling purple energy suddenly surges straight into the corpse's pale eyes. The boy stammers in disbelief as the dead body slowly rises back to its feet, wrapped in a thick, swirling cloud of pitch-black demonic aura. A towering shadow demon manifests behind the standing corpse, looking down with glowing eyes as it asks if this man's death brings the youth any real sorrow. The mysterious entity offers a dark bargain, promising to return his father to life if his heart truly demands it. Rather than shedding a single tear, the crazed addict clutches his chest and erupts into manic, unhinged laughter. He shrieks that he couldn't care less about a piece of trash father and only gives a damn about getting more pills, prompting the shadowy demon to coldly accept his ruthless answer. The shadowy entity offers a strange purple flower, ordering the unhinged youth to feed his father's corpse to the devouring flower to seal their dark covenant. In exchange, the pact will fulfill his every desire while commanding him to slaughter anyone who dares defy them. Clutching the ominous bloom, Youngmu erupts into a manic, twisted sneer as dark energy surges all around him. Holding the sinister flower high, the gory memory dissolves, snapping back to the present woodland standoff. Back in the dark woods, the pink-haired boss bristles with explosive rage at being labeled a mere human. Glaring at Rabus, he proudly boasts that a supreme entity rescued him from nothingness and granted him a brand new life. Rabus instantly connects the dots, recognizing the telltale signs of a low-grade demonic contract. Unbothered by the revelation, our boy casually adjusts his sleeve and coldly warns the dealer that both he and his shadowy master are completely out of luck. Furious that his revered master was just called trash, Youngmu screams in pure rage and commands his remaining heavy enforcers to charge in and drag the arrogant student down. As his demon attendant frets over the incoming wave, our reincarnated prince doesn't even flinch. With his red eye gleaming with murderous intent, Rabus admits he's getting bored and prepares to wipe out these fools in seconds. An ambulance rushes Yuri away while her terrified mother desperately clutches the jar of blue pills. Meanwhile, the syndicate's new delivery app causes sales of the blue ribbon drug to explode across the country. Street dealers peddle the enhancement pills to eager buyers everywhere, leaving addicts twitching on floors as the syndicate dreams of expanding into a global empire. Inside their headquarters, gangsters celebrate opening trade routes to China and Japan, totally indifferent to the destruction left in their wake. But the timid developer who built their app weeps in guilt, praying for someone to finally put an end to this nightmare. Back in the woods, that prayer is answered as Rabus instantly flattens the rest of the gang. The last conscious thug cowers on the ground, screaming to his boss that this kid isn't human. Unfazed by the carnage, our demon prince casually asks when the dealer plans to step up, completely unimpressed by their weak ambush. Hearing his authority mocked, Youngmu remembers the dark command of his shadow master to eliminate anyone who rejects the devouring flower. Reaching into his pocket, he pulls out 3 blue pills. Swearing obedience to Lord Bar-Hilt, the unhinged dealer shoves all 3 pills into his mouth at once. Purple demonic energy explodes around him as dark veins swell across his face, setting up a brutal showdown against our reincarnated demon king. Bound by strict commands to eliminate anyone who betrays loyalty or denies the devouring flower, a dark assassin prepares for battle. He eagerly swallows glowing blue pills, letting the unholy power surge through his veins as his eyes ignite with sinister energy. Back on the battlefield, the trembling woman frantically warns Youngmu that our boy isn't just an ordinary student, accusing him of creating the mysterious new drug. Rabus catches the absurd accusation and turns around completely stunned. Before he can even digest her claim, the purple-eyed fanatic ambushes him with terrifying speed. Blurring forward, the assassin unleashes a rapid barrage of deadly strikes. Our boy reacts just in time, throwing up a tight defense as fists shatter the air. Rabus feels the heavy kinetic force, acknowledging this killer operates on a completely different level from the previous small fry. The assassin rages in disbelief as his blows are repeatedly blocked, fanatically screaming that his god's blessing belongs to him alone. Recognizing the familiar foul stench of demonic mana tied to the devouring flower, the former demon prince flashes a cold smirk. He instantly connects the dots and drops the exact name of the enemy god, Bor-Hilt. Hearing his master's name completely shatters the fanatic's composure and sends him into utter shock. Rabus easily sidesteps the reckless strike and counters, openly mocking his old rival for relying on such pathetic trash. The enraged fanatic screams in utter madness over the disrespect, but Rabus only smirks back cold-bloodedly, mocking Bor-Hilt for running away like a coward and pitying pathetic garbage. Pushed past his breaking point, the purple-eyed killer hurls himself forward into a furious attack. Effortlessly absorbing the heavy impact, our boy holds his ground with glowing red eyes. He taunts how far his old enemy has fallen, openly mocking the high and mighty status Bor claims to hold now. A terrifying memory flashes back to the demon realm, showing a young Rabus carving through an entire noble faction with sadistic glee, surrounded by flying decapitated heads, exploding blood, and butchered bodies. Back then, Bor-Hilt was nothing but a spineless traitor who fled crying while his own soldiers were slaughtered. Flashing a sinister grin, the demon prince demands to know where that bastard is hiding right now. Hearing his divine master dragged through the dirt sends the fanatic into a hyper-violent frenzy. Screaming in pure agony and fury, the killer surges ahead, unleashing his maximum power for one final strike. The fanatic lunges in and grabs Rabus by the throat, violently locking him in a desperate grapple while swearing to slaughter him with his own hands. But right as they collide, our boy suddenly recoils, overwhelmed by the sickening, foul stench of corrupted mana. The crazed fanatic slams Rabus violently onto the hard ground, pinning our boy down with insane, unnatural strength. Gritting his teeth under the heavy pressure, Rabus realizes this killer has completely lost his mind to corrupted mana and is moving in for a swift execution. Overpowered and trapped against the dirt, our boy takes a merciless beating as the fanatic screams in fury, raining down a lightning-fast barrage of vicious fists that shake the very earth beneath them. Relentless heavy blows crash into Rabus's face, forcing him to cough up blood as he struggles to withstand the sheer physical wreckage of this endless assault. Watching from behind cover in complete terror, the blue-haired demon girl cries out in panic. She knows Rabus's fragile human body is reaching its absolute breaking point, praying he could somehow unleash his true demon realm authority. Far away in the demon realm, two high-ranking figures observe the brutal spectacle from a grand throne room. The sharp-eyed demon advisor Banbei coldly notes that Rabus's human vessel might crumble, threatening to extinguish his soul permanently. Banbei dryly remarks that Rabus despises almost everything in existence, while the great Demon King chuckles over his son's notoriously wild temper, warning his advisor not to make sarcastic faces in his presence. Back in the demon realm, the great Demon King chuckles while revealing the truth to Banbei. Rabus isn't failing under pressure. He is an extreme germaphobe who literally cannot tolerate anything filthy touching his vessel. Back on the battlefield, our boy finally reaches his breaking point. Grabbing the assassin's wrist with crushing strength, Rabus glaringly spits out his utter disgust at the sickening stench, leaving the killer paralyzed with shock. Refusing to endure the foul odor for another second, Rabus clamps down hard on the fanatic's arm. Blood dripping down his face, his glowing red eye burns with intense fury as he twists the chokehold away. Unleashing a violent counterpush, Rabus throws the fanatic off him. The killer screams in agony and staggers back, completely baffled by how easily his iron grip was broken. Inspecting his left hand as dark energy surges through his veins, Rabus feels his true demon power returning. He stares coldly at his adversary, ready to unleash hell. Igniting his hand with a devastating pink demonic aura, Rabus declares he won't dirty his fingers on such a foul opponent any longer, preparing to finish the battle instantly. Locking eyes with the terrified fanatic, our boy moves like a phantom, launching a lethal upside-down strike that violently smashes the assassin down into the dirt. The purple-eyed assassin reels in utter disbelief, struggling to comprehend how a mere human vessel could possess such monstrous, overwhelming force, while the blue-haired demon girl squeals in absolute delight. Coldly mocking the killer's insult, our boy steps through the dark aura and drives a devastating pink-infused fist straight into his face, sending the fanatic crashing violently into the dirt. The trembling woman cowers in complete terror at the sight, while the battered killer clutches his bleeding nose, screaming in frantic panic to learn the true identity of his monster opponent. Telling the garbage to stop flapping his stinking gums, Rabus delivers another ruthless strike right to the killer's jaw, flipping him upside down and smashing him headfirst into the hard earth. Far away in the demon realm, the astonished advisor watches the sudden shift. The great Demon King laughs, explaining that severe disgust for filth triggers Rabus's intense misophobia, awakening a portion of his true original power. Banbei remains deeply skeptical, questioning how a fragile mortal vessel could ever harbor high-tier demonic authority, insisting that even with the demon bloodstone, it should be entirely impossible. The Demon King only smirks from his grand throne, proudly declaring that Rabus is no ordinary creature, because no matter the odds, his savage son truly takes after him. Standing tall with blood trickling down his face, our boy cold-bloodedly looks down on the broken assassin. The fanatic lies completely crushed against the shattered ground, coughing up blood in total defeat. Walking up with a dark glare, Rabus tells the garbage to consider himself lucky. The only reason he is still breathing is because Rabus cannot commit murder while bound to this human vessel. The purple-eyed killer screams in utter denial, unable to accept that someone could overpower a warrior personally blessed by his divine master. Yet no matter how hard he clutches the dirt, reality remains unchanged. Flashing a twisted grin, the fanatic desperately prays for more corrupted power. But Rabus instantly grabs his arm and cuts him off, igniting a dark pink demonic aura to end this battle just short of execution. Winding back his arm with terrifying speed, our boy plants his feet into the cracked earth. Dark energy surges through his veins as he prepares to deliver the final strike. Surging forward like a phantom, Rabus unleashes a monstrous downward blow straight into the killer's skull. The fanatic's eye widens in absolute horror as the ruthless force shatters the air and violently smashes him into the dirt. With the fanatic completely silenced, Rabus calmly inspects his bloody knuckles. The threat has been neutralized, leaving our boy standing victorious as dark mana slowly fades from his hands. The defeated fanatic lies completely broken on the hard ground, spitting blood and screaming in agonizing defeat as his vessel collapses under Rabus's overwhelming demonic power. Exhaling softly as the dust clears, our boy pulls out a handkerchief to clean the blood off his face. With the battle over, Rabus is just relieved that the unbearable stench of corrupted mana is finally starting to fade away. Staring at the monitor in absolute horror, the anxious tech genius trembles like a ghost as the app's real usage metrics flash across his screen. The disturbing numbers confirm his worst nightmare. This is not what he designed, and the sudden realization that his software is being abused leaves him completely horrified. See, he never intended to assist an evil criminal syndicate. Trapped inside a ruthless school hierarchy, the poor kid spent years enduring relentless bullying, forced isolation, and faking friendships just to survive. He designed this network to help vulnerable students find genuine human connections, never expecting ruthless monsters to weaponize it. Furious that his life's work is being weaponized for illicit drug trades, the glasses-wearing prodigy completely snaps with righteous fury. Screaming in pure rage, his hands blur across the mechanical keyboard, furiously slamming line after line of destructive code into the terminal to permanently dismantle the network. Outside the glass office, the syndicate handlers freeze in total shock as their mobile devices erupt with fatal system crashes. Knowing the criminals will realize his betrayal in mere seconds, our boy leaps from his seat, grabbing a metal folding chair to tightly jam the door handle shut. The enraged thugs violently slam against the door, screaming murderous threats and demanding he open up right now. Completely ignoring their frantic banging, the solitary hacker stands resolute at the main workstation, sweating profusely as he desperately pushes the automated deletion routine to its absolute limit. Running out of patience, one of the enforcers grabs a heavy metal stool and smashes it straight through the observation window. Glass shatters violently across the room as the ruthless thug vaults through the frame, lunging directly at the helpless coder to stop the purge from completing. The enforcer vaults through the glass and delivers a brutal blow to our boy, dropping him straight onto the floor. As the remaining thugs stare at the monitor in absolute panic, they realize the deletion sequence is already underway, and if their boss arrives to find the network destroyed, every single one of them is dead. Pinned under a heavy boot, the desperate developer refuses to give up. Desperately shielding his face, he spots a razor-sharp shard of shattered glass lying on the concrete. With every ounce of strength left in his body, he grabs the glass fragment and slashes it directly across his attacker's leg. Screaming in pain, the thug stumbles back, giving our boy just enough room to scramble across the shattered glass. He snatches a heavy fire extinguisher off the wall and points the nozzle directly at the criminals. Unleashing a blinding wall of chemical powder, he completely fills the room with smoke, blinding his attackers. Coughing violently in the impenetrable haze, the disoriented syndicate members stumble around in total confusion. Through the thick cloud of dust, the workstation monitor flashes green as the deletion bar hits 100%. Tears of relief stream down the kid's face as his life's work is permanently erased from existence. but his victory is cut short as the enraged ponytail enforcer charges blindly through the smoke, tackling the exhausted developer to the floor and slamming a suffocating grip around his throat. Barking orders at his panicked subordinates to grab rope, the thug pins the boy down with murderous intent. Gasping for air, the helpless prodigy claws furiously at the massive hand crushing his windpipe, realization sinking in that he has reached his absolute limit. Staring down with bloodthirsty fury, the criminal sneers in pure malice, ready to make the kid pay with his life for destroying their multi-million-dollar empire. Emerging through the thick chemical haze, Rabus's crimson demonic eye burns with lethal fury as he coldly demands who gave these thugs permission to touch his servant. The ponytail enforcer freezes in absolute shock, trembling as an overwhelming aura completely paralyzes him. Before the criminal enforcer can even raise his guard, Rabus's hand bursts through the smoke like a strike of lightning. Blended inside the impenetrable fog, the remaining syndicate handlers gasp in pure horror as their lead attacker is violently seized without warning. With terrifying physical strength, our boy grabs the enforcer's skull and violently slams him face-first straight into the concrete floor, knocking him out cold. His panicked crew screams in utter disbelief, completely horrified that a high school kid just crushed their top fighter in seconds. Without losing a single microsecond, Rabus shifts into high gear with demonic speed, blitzing the remaining two criminals before they can draw a weapon. Delivering a pair of brutal lightning-fast strikes, he flips both thugs upside down and smashes them violently into the ground. Standing tall over the broken syndicate members, the Demon King coldly declares that even if he dies, no one is allowed to take what belongs to him. Bleeding on the floor, the traumatized developer kid tears up in sheer relief, watching Minho single-handedly annihilate his dangerous captors. See, long before this ruthless syndicate co-opted his software, the gentle genius met with Minho on a quiet campus bench to present his innocent passion project. He excitedly showed off how the app would help isolated students make genuine friends, share locations, and easily assemble study groups. Tapping a bright red siren icon on the screen, the kid remorsefully confessed that he programmed this hidden emergency alert feature out of deep personal guilt, desperately wishing he had been brave enough to help when Taewoo's ruthless gang harassed Minho in the past. Determined to never let his friends suffer alone again, the gentle tech prodigy programmed a secret distress beacon inside his app, promising to drop everything and rush to Minho's side if the alarm ever sounded. Deeply touched by his genuine sincerity, Minho agreed to install it, cementing their quiet bond of trust. Snap back to the present. Tears stream down the battered prodigy's face as Minho holds up his glowing phone screen. The emergency beacon actually worked. Realizing his only true friend came to save his life because he received that desperate signal, the overwhelmed kid breaks down in tears. Collapsing onto his hands and knees beside the unconscious syndicate enforcers, the trembling developer bows his head to the cold concrete floor. Sobbing in absolute relief, he thanks the Demon King over and over for rescuing him from the brink of death. Meanwhile, in the dark alleyway outside, Rabus's blue-haired demon assistant effortlessly restrains a struggling syndicate operative, sternly commanding her to stay still. Spotting Minho emerging from the ruined facility, the loyal assistant immediately greets her lord. As the terrified operative breaks free and flees into the night, Minho calmly tells his assistant to let her go, declaring they no longer need them. Scanning the compound with cold precision, the Demon King confirms that every last devouring flower in their possession has been completely destroyed. Towering infernos erupt into the night sky as blaring emergency sirens echo across the district. Firefighters and police forces swarm the blazing perimeter, frantically shouting orders to suppress the raging flames before the fire can engulf the surrounding forest. Pushing deeper into the smoking compound, the arriving officers freeze in absolute disbelief at the surreal scene before them. Surrounded by burning debris, the entire ruthless criminal syndicate lies utterly defeated, battered, and unconscious across the ground. Arriving emergency responders freeze in total shock, instantly recognizing the notorious criminal syndicate lying utterly battered and broken across the ground. The ruthless enforcers who terrorize the district are completely neutralized, leaving the stunned police force horrified and questioning who could possess the terrifying strength to annihilate an entire syndicate single-handedly. Slipping away into the quiet city night, Minho walks calmly down the alleyway alongside his relieved young tech companion. While the grateful prodigy looks back in silent awe at his savior, the Demon King's blue-haired assistant whistles a cheerful tune, completely unbothered by the absolute chaos they left behind. As they navigate the dark streets, Minho's eyes narrow with lethal precision as dark thoughts consume him. A chilling realization settles deep in his mind. Bambi and his own uncle have been secretly manipulating him for their own agenda all along. Cold, unyielding fury burns within the Demon King, quietly swearing that once he reclaims his rightful place in the demon realm, he will make every last traitor pay with their lives. Late at night in a quiet apartment, the rescued student pulls out a medical kit to tend to Minho's battle wounds, asking if he needs a hospital, but our demon lord casually dismisses the concern, treating his injuries like minor scratches. The kid gratefully thanks Minho, thoroughly amazed that he actually showed up after the emergency SOS signal was pressed. But just as Rabus prepares to bluntly confess it was purely a coincidence, Strit lunges in to stop him from ruining the moment. See, earlier that evening, Rabus and Strit were violently dragging a captured enemy punk through the streets to locate his syndicate's hideout. When the thrashing gang member asked if Rabus was invading them for Lim Sion, the Demon King realized they had actually kidnapped his classmate. Before the stunned thug can understand why a monster like Rabus is hunting his gang, a loud distress signal blares from Rabus's phone. It was the exact moment the classmate pressed his emergency SOS button, confirming his location and locking in their rescue target. Snapping back to the present, Strit fiercely scolds her lord for lacking basic human social tact. She warns him that since they are stuck in the human realm, securing devoted allies is crucial, especially when the kid already views Rabus as a heroic savior. Breaking the awkward silence, the student points at the horned demon girl and asks who she is. Without missing a beat, Rabus bluntly introduces Strit directly as his subordinate, sending immediate shockwaves through the human kid's head. Unable to suppress his growing suspicion, the kid leans in close with cold sweat dripping down his face. He confronts Minho about his radical personality shift and his strangely dressed follower, finally asking the terrifying question on his mind. Lim Sion immediately jumps to the worst conclusion, convinced that Minho has been corrupted by a ruthless street syndicate. But our demon lord realizes deception is pointless, especially with more servants destined to join his ranks. He decides it's time to lay out the cold, hard truth. Placing a hand over his chest, Rabus proudly announces his true identity as Ravus Vindica, Prince of the Demon Realm. The mind-boggling confession leaves the kid frozen in utter disbelief, but Rabus casually dismisses his shock and demands his immediate allegiance from this day forward. The bewildered student tries to reject the wild claim as utter nonsense, unable to process what he just heard. But before he can even argue, a small white cat suddenly pounces directly onto his chest, completely disrupting his train of thought. Drained from a grueling night of non-stop violence, Rabus hands off the tedious task of explaining to Strit. The moment the cute animal actually opens its mouth and speaks human words, the poor kid's mind completely breaks down from sheer psychological horror. Meanwhile, far from the apartment at the burning crime scene, police lock a battered gang member inside a transport vehicle. Covered in blood and bruises, the angry survivor clutches his injuries while muttering murderous threats about the monstrous fighter who crushed him. As the officer prepares to haul the criminal away to the station, a shadowy figure clad in a dark cloak suddenly steps out of the night. The cop moves to stop the trespasser, but the stranger instantly reaches out and grabs his face, telling him to shut his mouth. Surging magic instantly paralyzes the officer, sending him crumbling unconscious onto the muddy dirt track. With law enforcement neutralized in seconds, the hooded intruder steps straight into the back of the police van to face the terrified gang member. Standing over the bloodied gang member inside the police transport vehicle, the hooded demon Boar mockingly pities the broken criminal. Desperate to avenge his brutal defeat, the thug frantically begs for another shot at the monster who crushed him, prompting Boar to unleash his dark magic and snatch his puppet away into the night. Meanwhile, at the crime scene, a sharp police officer inspects a suspicious bag of narcotics disguised as ordinary candy. Realizing these dangerous drugs were intentionally distributed to young students in massive quantities, she boils with rage over the syndicate's ruthless cruelty. Her investigation is abruptly cut short when a groaning detective on the dirt track gasps for her to check the transport van. She sprints over and throws open the doors, only to stand frozen in absolute horror as the high-profile criminal has completely vanished without leaving a trace. Far away inside a secluded, scaffolded building in the mountains, the escaped thug drops to his knees before his demon master. Craving overwhelming power to settle his score, the bruised junkie maniacally screams for another dose of the demonic drug, swearing he will obliterate Rabus once and for all. Unmoved by the punk's desperate begging, Boar coldly examines a glowing purple flower, furiously scolding him for allowing their irreplaceable crops to burn down. He reminds him of the dark reality. These demonic plants require living human hosts to sprout and feed. A terrifying wide view of the hideout reveals dozens of kidnapped humans tied to stone slabs and hanging from walls, their helpless bodies serving as living incubators for the parasitic flora. Boar sighs in utter disappointment, lamenting that he ever trusted a lowly, foolish human with such a delicate harvest. Driven completely insane by rage and withdrawal, the bruised criminal screams at the top of his lungs, begging for one final opportunity to tear Rabbis to shreds. Boar shows zero mercy to his failing human minion, coldly bringing up the binding blood oath sworn between them. Before the terrified criminal can even beg for leniency, violent dark magic surges through his body, tearing into his flesh with devastating force. A parasitic purple flower violently erupts right out of the criminal's eye socket, causing him to collapse on the floor in unbearable agony. Boar demands his absolute final loyalty, watching with ice-cold indifference as the demonic bloom feeds directly on his host's life force. Meanwhile, at a secluded office elsewhere in the city, a panicked female syndicate worker frantically rummages through open cabinets. With law enforcement raiding their secondary hideout, she desperately scrambles to snatch the syndicate's crypto wallet and escape before officers swarm the building. Her getaway plan instantly collapses when a heavily tattooed gang member staggers into the room right behind her. Drooling uncontrollably and clutching a sharp knife, the heavily altered criminal corners her with a predatory glare, leaving her completely trapped. Driven completely insane by massive doses of the demonic drug, the twitching addict staggers forward, aggressively demanding another hit of the blue ribbon. Shocked by his grotesque forehead tattoo and unhinged behavior, she realizes he has lost all sanity to withdrawal. Fighting for her life, she grabs a wooden club from the corner and lunges forward with a furious strike. But the violent addict counters her blow and brutally stabs his blade into her abdomen, sending her crashing onto the floor in a pool of blood. Driven completely insane by withdrawal, the twitching addict violently screams for another dose of blue ribbon. Meanwhile, the injured woman bleeds out on the cold floor from a brutal knife strike, desperately clutching her side in pure terror. Soaking in her own blood, she struggles to breathe while tears stream down her face, staring helplessly as her life slips away in this dark office. Before the attacker can inflict any more damage, violent demonic smoke erupts right out of his head, completely engulfing his frame in swirling dark energy. As the vortex dissipates, an arrogant demon steps into view with a sharp smirk, openly mocking Rabbis. Desperate for a miracle, the dying woman looks up at the strange entity with tear-filled eyes, crying out and begging him to save her life. But the ruthless intruder looks down with absolute coldness, casually declaring that anyone destined for hell must simply accept their fate. With her final hope completely shattered, the helpless woman collapses into utter despair, while the demon cold-bloodedly decides to leave her body behind on the floor. Evil conspirators are aggressively advancing their dark agenda across the city, setting up an explosive confrontation for our demon king. Deep inside the demon realm, Varkan casually strolls into the main hall to face his formidable sister, the ruling demon king. She instantly locks onto him with pure anger, demanding to know why he secretly banished her son Ravis to the human realm while plotting behind her back. Instead of apologizing, the purple-haired demon smugly reveals he implanted a sacred demon bloodstone inside the boy's body before sending him off. That crazy reveal causes the mother to completely blow her top, screaming that if rumors spread, rival factions will hunt her lone son down. Varkan nonchalantly tells her to have some faith in the kid, but she shuts him down cold. The entire world is teetering on a knife's edge, locked in a tense conflict between supreme angels and demon lords where even a single misstep could plunge everyone into total destruction. When Varkan brags that Ravis took after his own violent, bloodthirsty combat nature, his sister completely loses her temper. She delivers a heavy hammer fist directly onto his skull, warning him that if even a single hair on her son's soul gets harmed, he dies. Clutching his throbbing head, the bruised demon screams at their advisor Vanby to comb through every dark grimoire and find a spell that erases older sisters from existence. Poor Vanby can only stand by sweating in terror, desperately begging both royal demons to calm down. The unhinged demon king snaps right back, trapping her brother in a brutal rear chokehold until he starts coughing for air. Watching this insane royal family brawl, Vanby finally realizes how Ravis grew up so tough, he was surviving a literal war zone at home every single day. Elsewhere, night settles over the quiet human city streets. Inside a dark apartment room, a terrified kid wearing glasses stares up at our exiled demon prince in sheer horror, trembling like a leaf as he realizes what kind of ruthless monster he is actually dealing with. Our exiled demon prince casually confirms his true identity, offering the trembling young boy a permanent sanctuary inside the demon realm where no mortal enemy can ever touch him. Seeing the kid shrink back in dread, the ruthless prince makes it crystal clear that serving the rightful heir of the demon king is not an option he can turn down. When the terrified boy desperately begs not to be dragged into such a nightmare, the prince's face turns dark and menacing. He flashes a lethal glare, threatening horrific torture on his own demon advisor if the kid ever dares to disobey his commands, instantly terrifying the young human into complete submission. Shaken to his core, the boy desperately asks what truly happened to the original owner of this body. The white cat mascot nonchalantly reveals the grim reality. The real Manhwa was already destined to die, and demons are strictly bound to use doomed mortal bodies as host prisons. Hearing that his friend's fate was sealed from the start leaves the poor kid completely heartbroken. Ravis tells him to stop acting so gloomy and enjoy his remaining decades before they all reunite in hell. The sadistic cat gleefully paints a nightmare picture of their realm, describing torn flesh, agonizing screams, and the overwhelming scent of blood. The horrific description sends the traumatized human clutching his head in utter agony, begging them to stop. Ordering the boy to act completely normal at school and keep their secret buried, Ravis prepares to take his leave. Feeling a heavy physical strain washing over his host body after the brutal confrontation, the young demon lord steps out into the quiet city night with his loyal feline companions scurrying right behind him. Back at his apartment, Ravis staggers through the entrance while clutching his throbbing skull, suspecting that channeling energy from the implanted demon bloodstone is straining his human vessel. But before he can even rest, his sweet little sister pops up with a bright smile, surprising him with a homemade strawberry birthday cake she spent all day preparing. Before Ravis can even catch his breath, Manhwa's cheerful little sister abruptly slaps a party hat onto his head and snaps a quick celebratory photo. But as she leans in close, her eyes instantly lock onto the fresh bruise visible on her brother's face, immediately demanding to know who dared to hurt him. She quickly brushes it off with a laugh, claiming she got injured trying to protect an elderly woman from neighborhood bullies. Watching her frail human frame, our ruthless demon prince scoffs at her heroic attempt as utterly pointless, yet he finds her bizarre desire to protect others oddly fascinating. Completely ignoring his cold demeanor, the enthusiastic girl shoves a forkful of homemade strawberry cake straight into his mouth. The instant the rich cream hits his tongue, Ravis freezes in total disbelief, clutching his face in sheer ecstasy as the divine human sweetness completely overpowers his senses. The peaceful moment shatters instantly as the front door bursts open, and Manhwa's enraged stepfather storms into the hallway like a madman. Furious after being humiliated and pelted with eggs on the campaign trail, the violent politician ruthlessly strikes his own security guard before brutally slapping his wife straight to the floor when she begs him to calm down. Seeing her mother struck down, the terrified young girl bravely steps forward and screams for him to stop, but her defiance only fuels his rage. The unhinged man locks his murderous gaze onto the freshly baked birthday cake, demanding to know how they dare celebrate while his political career is falling apart. Screaming in pure rage, the brutal stepfather violently shoves the innocent girl out of his way and mercilessly smashes her handmade cake straight against the wall. As cream and strawberries splatter across the room, Manhwa's heartbroken mother collapses into tears, desperately pleading with her abusive husband to stop as she reminds him that today is her son's birthday. The arrogant stepfather scoffs in absolute disgust, barking that no one has time to celebrate a stupid birthday in a high-stakes situation like this. Screaming that he is utterly sick and tired of this useless household, the violent politician turns on his heel and storms out, while our exiled demon prince silently tracks his retreat with a deadly stare. Stepping over to the kitchen counter, Ravis stares down at the handmade strawberry cake splattered across the floor. In an instant, murderous purple demon aura erupts around his body as his eyes glow white with lethal fury. A mere human just dared to destroy something that belonged to him. While Manhwa's weeping mother desperately cradles her sobbing daughter on the floor, Ravis turns away with a dark, menacing glare. To the supreme heir of the demon realm, seeing an ordinary mortal act with such unchecked arrogance is a grave insult, and this pathetic human is about to learn what real fear feels like. The following day inside his private campaign headquarters, the desperate politician violently slams both fists onto his desk in a fit of rage. His main financial backer, Y. Youngmoo, has cut all communication and stopped sending cash, leaving him unable to slide deposits to Assemblyman Park just to take a single photo for his plummeting election numbers. Just as his aides scramble to locate the missing investor, another staffer bursts through the office door clutching a tablet. Sweating profusely, the panicked assistant tells the candidate to look at the screen right away, announcing that a video of his stepdaughter Manhwa is going viral across the entire country. The candidate glares at the screen, watching viral phone footage of Manhwa fearlessly standing up to rowdy teenage delinquents on the street to protect a helpless grandmother. As the video shows her gently taking care of the old woman, the cunning politician's eyes narrow as he realizes his stepdaughter's instant online fame might be the exact PR miracle he needs. His campaign staff eagerly reports that publicly revealing Manhwa as his stepdaughter will send his crashing approval ratings straight through the roof. A sickening, greedy smile spreads across the corrupt politician's face as he stares down at the screen. The ruthless man instantly realizes that shamelessly exploiting his innocent stepdaughter's viral fame is the exact PR miracle he needs to turn his failing campaign completely around. High above the city skyline, inside a luxurious skyscraper lounge, a secretive syndicate zeroes in on their next target. The organization's master calls forth her top lethal enforcers, Han Young and Han Soo, commanding them to inspect a high school girl whose striking face has suddenly captured their full attention. Displayed across the massive screen is an innocent high school girl smiling beside her classmates, completely oblivious to the predators watching her every move. The enforcers analyze the footage, confirming that this unsuspecting student is destined to become the new physical vessel for their ancient leader, Mother. Reclining comfortably on her sofa, Mother mockingly dismisses her subordinate's subtle envy. The sinister leader gazes at the monitor with absolute satisfaction, declaring that this girl possesses the exact pristine face she has sought for ages, sealing the young student's fate as her upcoming body host. Flesh and bone age far too quickly, making this flawless young target feel like pure destiny. As Mother stretches her hand toward the glowing screen, her ruthless assassins grin with sadistic glee, already anticipating the horrific sound the helpless girl will make when they shatter her. Elsewhere in the city, campaign poll numbers explode after a viral video captures candidate Manhwa's courageous act helping an elderly woman in public. At political headquarters, her father's staff celebrates reclaiming the top spot in election approval ratings, with primetime news preparing to air the footage nationwide tonight. The calculating politician smirks with ruthless satisfaction, viewing his daughter not with parental love, but as a political lucky charm to guarantee victory. He instantly commands his aide to pack her schedule with televised charity work and public volunteering to exploit her sudden popularity for every single vote. Just as their political strategy takes shape, the assistant drops a massive bombshell. The CEO of influential Nox Entertainment has personally reached out after watching Manhwa's viral video. Realizing immense power and corporate wealth are now directly within his grasp, the corrupt politician flashes a dark, predatory smile. Lying back in absolute triumph, Manhwa's corrupt stepfather gloats over his unexpected fortune, realizing the innocent high school girl is the ultimate political goldmine to guarantee his election victory. With primetime news broadcasting her heroics nationwide, he eagerly prepares to exploit her sudden popularity for every single vote. Meanwhile, on the evening streets, Rabus walks beside his classmate, who is completely stunned to discover that Manhwa's stepfather is a major mayoral candidate. Hearing that Manhwa always cherished his sister, Rabus reflects on his uncle's ancient lesson, that building supreme power requires surrounding yourself with allies you actively cherish. That thought immediately triggers chaotic memories of his noisy demon comrades back in the underworld, who constantly demanded to be cherished and drove him insane. The former demon prince stares forward with complete exhaustion, utterly repulsed by such sentimental garbage. Further down a secluded back alley, Rabus spots his cat servant street wedged inside a narrow wall opening once again. After complaining about its expanding waistline, the overfed creature squeezes through the tight demon realm portal and hands over a hidden scroll message retrieved from their realm. The note comes from Vanbei, smugly ordering Rabus to hunt down another rogue demon named Boar while dangling the promise of a future gift. Furious at being treated like a disposable errand boy, Rabus flies into a murderous rage, shredding the paper while screaming vengeance against Vanbei. Calming down, Rabus inspects the election news on his friend's phone, which displays candidate Jiang Taeshik dominating the polls with massive public favor. Observing the man's ruthless political ambition, Rabus dryly questions whether this corrupt figure intends to devour the entire city for himself. The politician's boundless greed reminds Rabus of a Sinnaru, gluttonous beasts from the demon realm whose insatiable appetite makes them despised even by fellow demons. Rabus suspects Taeshik might be a hidden demon lurking in human society, but Street clarifies that the district is under control and Taeshik is merely a greedy human. Disgusted by human politics, the former demon prince scoffs at how rotten this world is for allowing a tyrant like Taeshik to reach top authority. Turning to his side, he sternly warns his overfed cat servant to stop gorging on food unless it wants to transform into a gluttonous monster itself. Standing beside him, his nervous classmate grows visibly uneasy while pointing out how Taeshik is openly exploiting young Manhwa just to buy cheap political favor. Hearing their names spoken together, our boy contemplates the tangled family bonds tied to the human body he now inhabits. Returning home, the young general steps inside his luxury apartment just as a high-stakes corporate negotiation unfolds in the living room. The shadowy executives of Nox Entertainment pitch turning Manhwa into their flagship center idol, while her corrupt stepfather aggressively shuts down her mother's hesitation to protect his sudden fortune. Manhwa sits in uneasy silence alongside her worried mother while the glamorous Nox CEO smoothly manipulates the conversation. The shameless politician eagerly apologizes for his wife's conservative concerns, allowing the disguised syndicate leader to falsely promise that her agency will protect the girl's education. Beneath the polished corporate pitch, the lethal assassin Han Su sinisterly licks his lip while locking his eyes on his innocent prey. Observing the interaction from the doorway, Rabis immediately catches the killer's creepy gaze, realizing something deeply twisted is lurking behind these visiting executives. Blinded by raw political ambition, the corrupt stepfather greedily opens the contract folder, ready to sign away Manhwa's freedom for power. The sinister leader smirks with predatory triumph as she guarantees him ultimate success, while the helpless high school girl hangs her head in total surrender. Noticing Rabs in the doorway, CEO Kang Hyunju introduces herself, but the ancient demon prince responds with absolute silence and cold arrogance. When Taeshik furiously barks at his stepson to show proper manners, the cunning master smoothly laughs off the disrespect, keeping her lethal true identity hidden behind a warm smile. Watching the corporate predators corner Manhwa, Rabas recalls how the original Manhwa cherished his sister above all else. That human emotion triggers a vivid memory of his own past in the demon realm, forcing the former prince to remember a crucial lesson about leadership and bonds. Back in the demon realm, his uncle declared his absolute loyalty, warning young Rabis that their world was full of hostile forces aiming to tear down the ruler's power. He cautioned the young heir that facing such overwhelming danger alone would only lead to destruction. Reminding Rabis that he was destined to carry on the formidable will of the great demon king, his uncle explained that true authority requires learning to embrace one's followers. But the stubborn young prince rejected the idea, arrogantly shouting that his own raw martial power was all he needed. Laughing at the boy's defiance, his uncle predicted that one day Rabis would encounter people who would naturally draw his heart and change him forever. Disgusted by such emotional advice, the young prince demanded they return to harsh combat practice on the remote cliff tops. Snapping back to the present, Rabis decisively steps up and places a reassuring hand on Manhwa's shoulder, cutting right through the tense contract negotiation. Staring down at his stunned stepsister, our boy directly challenges the corrupt adults in the room by demanding to know if she is being forced into this agreement. Staring down the room with cold authority, Rabis boldly declares that he will take care of everything himself. The ancient demon prince steps in to shield his stepsister, putting an end to the corrupt deal on the spot. Our boy steps right beside Manhwa, giving her a decisive out and demanding to know if anyone is forcing her into this deal. He promises to crush the problem himself if she speaks up, but the young girl hesitates in heavy silence, paralyzed by the weight of her past. A brutal flashback exposes the true nightmare of her household. Her scumbag stepfather violently strikes her mother, dragging the poor woman by her hair, while screaming that they will never escape his legal control or survive without a single penny to their names. When young Manhwa screams back to defend her family, the tyrannical bastard grabs her mother by the throat, maniacally declaring that nothing in his hands will ever be released. That terrifying moment of powerlessness burned an unshakable resolve into the child's mind. Snapping back to reality, the little general stands resolute next to Rabis and accepts the offer, but demands one critical condition. Every single cent she earns must be registered under her own name, secretly plotting to buy complete freedom for her family from that abusive monster. The abusive stepfather breaks into a nervous sweat and fake smiles, instantly backing her demand just to secure the deal. Meanwhile, the ruthless agency CEO smirks with satisfaction, ready to finalize the contract on the spot before anyone can change their mind. Her anxious mother pleads with the CEO to guard Manhwa like her own life, desperately checking if her daughter is truly okay with this sacrifice. Manhwa meets her mother's tearful eyes with absolute confidence, telling her to trust her decision without fear. With the contract sealed, Manhwa's grim tension finally melts away into a warm smile. She turns to Rabis and warmly thanks him for stepping up as a real brother and backing her when the pressure was at its absolute peak. Our boy stands in stern silence, watching the agency's executive car speed off into the dark night. But inside that vehicle, a sinister hidden agenda is already unfolding away from public eyes. The ruthless CEO gloats with predatory satisfaction, viewing young Manhwa as the ultimate target and perfect vessel for her imminent dark plans. However, her psychotic son Sue stays fixated on Rabus, glaring back with murderous obsession and pointing out that the girl's protective brother feels dangerously out of place. Their driver Yonga seconds the suspicion, bluntly admitting that Rabus exudes an unnatural, non-human energy. Rather than panicking, the CEO smiles with malice, realizing that this so-called brother might actually be a lethal tracker sent from the demon realm to hunt down high-level targets. Driven mad by Rabus' cold glare, Sue thrashes violently on the back seat, begging his mother for permission to tear the boy apart immediately. But the matriarch forcefully holds him down, warning that acting recklessly right now could ruin their entire plan before the deal is fully secured. A grotesque shadow entity wraps around Manhwa as their true horrific goal is laid bare. A dark ritual scheduled for the approaching moonless night to steal the girl completely. To satisfy her rabid son, the CEO promises that Rabus will be handed over as a blood gift. When Yonga slips and calls her by her true name, Mara, the CEO's eye bursts with terrifying purple demonic power. She furiously commands absolute silence, declaring that neither the Great Demon King nor the 12 Black Seats will stand in her way as she prepares to be reborn in the human world. The following morning, completely unaware of the demonic conspiracy surrounding her, Manhwa stands resolute before the towering agency headquarters, fully prepared to confront whatever comes next to save her mother and brother. Steel-willed Manhwa takes a deep breath and steps into the agency practice room, fully prepared to face whatever challenges lie ahead. But the ruthless CEO wastes zero time stirring up chaos, instantly introducing the young girl to the veteran trainees and declaring her the centerpiece of their upcoming idol group Zira. That sudden announcement hits the training floor like a bomb. Ha Yeon, who poured 4 relentless years of sweat and tears into securing that lead role, tries to protest, but Mara coldly brushes her complaints aside and walks out, leaving the room heavy with venomous envy. The second the door closes, Ha Yeon corners Manhwa with open hostility. She sneers that the kid only got the spot through her abusive stepfather's political connections. Before the poor girl can even explain herself, the jealous trainee flies into a rage and viciously scratches her across the face. Fresh blood trickles down Manhwa's cheek as she clutches the painful cut in stunned silence. But this violent attack did not go unnoticed. Security cameras overhead capture every frame of the assault, feeding the footage straight into the executive monitoring suite. In the control room, Sue watches the live video feed with sadistic thrill. The psychotic boy jumps up to show his mother the screen, gleefully pointing out that a worthless trainee just drew blood on their newest recruit. That stupid mistake triggers a terrifying demonic reaction. Grotesque purple markings burst across Mara's face as her eyes flare with murderous hatred. She boils with lethal fury, screaming that no filthy human insect has the right to scar her ultimate vessel. Elsewhere under the night sky, chatter about Manhwa's big agency contract begins to spread. At a nearby courtyard, the demon Strit proudly brags about his 2 centuries of human experience, while Rabus stands quietly in the shadows, keeping his eyes sharp. Our boy stands watchful under the night sky, suspecting the CEO's entourage are high-level demons because they didn't flinch at his demonic gaze. Strit warns him that ancient entities hiding among humans can easily conceal their aura, urging the fallen lord to stay on high alert. When his companions advise him to tone down his menacing stare while bound in a weak human vessel, his glasses-wearing ally mockingly brings up Rabus' past failure to spot Boar. That sharp disrespect hits a nerve, instantly turning the demon lord's annoyance into fiery wrath. Rabus erupts and demands Strit drag the smart mouth straight to Hell's brutal training camp, driving the terrified human into a panicked frenzy. But deep down, our boy seethes with intense frustration, bitter that his sealed bloodstone power lets ordinary mortals look down on him. The mood shifts when Strit excitedly reveals she has discovered a way to restore his lost demonic energy. Plan in motion, Rabus commands Strit and his newly dubbed Servant Number 1 to investigate the suspicious CEO's entourage while he prepares to reclaim his true strength. Meanwhile, down a dark, desolate alley, senior trainee Han Ion stumbles home sobbing. 4 grueling years of non-stop effort and sacrifice were shattered in a single day, leaving the frustrated girl weeping in deep bitterness. Out of nowhere, a heavy dark blade slams into the hard pavement with lethal precision. Trapped in the narrow alley, the terrified girl spins around in sheer panic, staring at the weapon that just cut off her path. Stepping forward from the shadows is the agency's ominous driver, drawing twin blades with murderous intent. Recognizing the assassin, Yian trembles in absolute terror and begs to know what she did wrong, totally oblivious that scratching Mara's ultimate vessel sealed her fate for instant execution. Trapped in the narrow corridor, the terrified trainee breaks into hysterical tears, frantically begging for mercy and claiming she only lost her temper for a single moment. But her desperate apologies fall on deaf ears as the agency's ruthless assassin strikes without hesitation, unleashing a lethal dual blade strike that slashes through the darkness in a flash of crimson blood. Blood sprays violently across the alley walls as the brutal execution reaches its bloody conclusion. Yonga wipes the crimson droplets from her face and coldly delivers her final verdict, reminding the dying girl that scarring Manhwa was an unpardonable sin because Mara demands a flawless vessel. Task complete, the enforcer turns away, leaving the disgraced trainee lying motionless on the cold pavement. What starts as an innocent night walk for a pregnant woman and her husband quickly turns into a nightmare. Slithering through the dark alleyways behind them is a grotesque slime demon, quietly stalking their every step as they make their way back home. This vile creature oozes across the concrete, its glowing yellow eyes fixed on its prey. Black demonic energy radiates from its body as it crawls toward their apartment building, hunting for an opportunity to strike. Back at the apartment, dark shadows creep into the master bedroom late at night. The expectant mother tossing in her sleep senses the immediate danger, breaking into a cold sweat as black aura manifests right beside her bed. The demonic monster suddenly looms right over her chest with a twisted grin. Before she can utter a sound, the parasite smothers her mouth in thick black slime, declaring its ruthless intention to take control of her body and her unborn child. Tears stream down her face in pure agony as the entity forces its entire slimy mass straight down her throat. She chokes uncontrollably on the dark bile, completely powerless to stop the foul parasite from invading her mind and body. The horrific transformation completes in seconds. The helpless woman sits up with glowing purple eyes and a terrifying, unhinged grin, blue slime dripping from her lips as the monster takes full control. Roused by the muffled noises, her husband rubs his eyes and asks what's wrong, only to freeze in utter terror. Without giving him a chance to react, his possessed wife lunges forward and violently chokes him, coldly mocking his panic as she squeezes the life out of him. The parasite gazes down at her suffocating husband with pure contempt, mocking him for thinking a worthless human could ever share a life with her host body. As the terrified man desperately chokes out a plea to know who she really is, the demon coldly dismisses his questions and hurls him across the room, leaving him screaming in agony. Violent shrieks ring out across the apartment complex late into the night as demonic energy surges through the vessel's bloodline. Grasping her swollen belly with a twisted, unhinged grin, the parasite revels in her complete conquest, declaring that both this woman's physical body and the life growing inside it now belong entirely to her. Racked by the searing agony of childbirth inside the hospital delivery room, the possessed woman completely loses control and brutally kicks a doctor square in the face. She roars at the terrified surgical crew to tear the filthy children out of her womb before she slaughters every doctor in the room, cursing her sworn rival Aeneas for forcing her into this humiliation. The chaotic delivery concludes, leaving the stunned medical team trembling in utter disbelief at what they just brought into the world. Resting on the hospital bed are newborn twin boys, swaddled tight yet staring back at the horrified room with glowing red demonic eyes and cold, unnervingly calm expressions. Months later, the demon mother stands in her cluttered apartment, bitterly inspecting her waistline and cursing the hideous belly fat left behind after giving birth. On the floor beside her, the twin boys crawl around quietly, uttering innocent infant noises while harboring calculating, sinister glares that reveal their true demon blood. The demon mother ruthlessly kicks one of her toddlers across the floor, demanding her demon-blooded twins grow up fast. She needs them to restore her lost magical energy until she can locate a proper human host strong enough to contain her vengeful soul. Meanwhile, inside a crowded nightclub, old acquaintances whisper in disbelief about Yongju's dramatic change. Following her husband's tragic suicide, she completely abandoned her newborn twin boys to spend her nights partying without a single care. Unaware of the vile parasite occupying her body, a broadcasting producer falls straight into her trap. As she pressingly asks him about finding young talent, her dark purple aura slithers directly into his ear, invading his brain and brainwashing him on the spot. With the helpless man slumping unconscious on her shoulder, the demon mother flashes a sadistic grin. Grabbing his hair, she vows to claim every young human vessel in this realm to build an unstoppable force and slaughter her sworn enemy, Aeneas. Elsewhere, detectives launch a heavy investigation inside an entertainment agency office, following the sudden death of a top-star trainee named Hyon. The weeping executives choke back tears during questioning, unable to offer any clear clues about potential stalkers or grudges. Seeing the agency head overwhelmed by trauma, staff urge the lead detective to suspend the interrogation for the day. They request that the police redirect their immediate investigation toward interviewing the remaining young trainee kids. Detective Park Jungyeon and her senior partner take their leave, stepping away to question the trainees directly and piece together the sinister mystery surrounding the agency. Outside the private office, staff glance back in growing unease as disturbing noises echo from behind closed doors. Inside, the agency chief suddenly breaks into a violent gagging fit. Black demonic rot overwhelms her stolen flesh, forcing her to vomit up a foul stream of maggot-infested green slime straight onto the floor. Raging against the detectives investigating upstairs, the demon parasite bitterly curses her dead star Hyan for damaging her prime vessel. Her demon son Suya calmly inspects the maggots squirming through her hair, keeping his mother focused on their true objective. Suya promises to quickly capture trainee Jong Minhya and prepare her youthful body as the ultimate replacement host. Sinister purple veins pulse across the parasite's face as she orders her son to begin the harvesting without delay. Down inside the training studio, Suya and Younga gather the remaining female trainees under the pretense of discussing Hyan's tragic death. They abruptly enforce mandatory group lodging starting tomorrow, tactically isolating their targets away from family protection. When innocent Minha hesitates out of concern for her mother and brother back home, Younga fixes her with a ruthless glare. She steps forward to intimidate the girl, demanding absolute submission to the agency's strict rules. Suya instantly grabs Younga's shoulder to hold her back, flashing a terrifying telepathic warning directly into her mind. If she leaves a single scratch on Minha's face, their mother will brutally execute her. Putting on a fake, gentle smile, Suya effortlessly coaxes the frightened girl into accepting her tragic fate. Under the heavy pressure of the agency's senior staff, Minha reluctantly agrees to gather her bags for mandatory group lodging tomorrow. But deep down, growing anxiety gnaws at her, not only from the sudden isolation, but because her own brother back home has been acting unnervingly strange lately. Across town late that night, the exiled demon king Rabis pumps heavy iron while his frail human roommate nearly passes out from basic squats. Though his dark energy is steadily recovering, Rabis fumes over his inability to control the bloodstone, bitterly cursing his old demonic associate Vanbei. See, back in the demon realm, Vanbei spent endless hours re-engineering the Wavestone. Instead of suppressing power, he altered it to fuse directly with a human vessel, adding a ridiculous catch. Its dormant power only unlocks after having your face thoroughly smashed in. Vanbei even dispatched a mysterious demon child as secondary backup, carefully detailing the entire control method inside a personal letter. But our arrogant demon lord threw a violent fit back then, ripping the document into confetti without bothering to read a single line. Back in the present, our young general freezes mid-curl as a cold sweat breaks out, suddenly realizing he completely destroyed the only instruction manual for his own powers. Before he can sink deeper into regret, their cat familiar comes sprinting into the room on two hind legs, shrieking in pure panic. The frantic pet drops urgent intel, warning that something terrible has just surfaced regarding Han Youngju and her demon-blooded twins. The frantic cat pet shrieks in utter panic, dropping the bombshell that CEO Kim Yongju is actually Mara Beliax. Known throughout the demon realm as the Witch of Greed and one of the 12 Dark Thrones, this vile high demon hijacked a human body to hide her true presence in the mortal world. As his roommate stammers in confusion, the young demon king lets out a dark chuckle. Instead of trembling, our exiled lord flashes a predatory grin, thrilled to learn that a high-ranking rival from back home has been lurking right under his nose. Deep within the demon realm, Lady Aeneas reigns as an untouchable icon, surrounded by admiring nobles who hang on every single breath she takes. They shower the goddess with endless flattery, treating her philosophical speeches about truth and elegance like holy scripture, as she commands the entire grand hall without lifting a finger. When an ambitious noble mother begs for her young daughter to inherit even a fraction of that royal prestige, the high goddess graciously steps forward. She bestows the legendary blessing of the silver tongue, demonstrating the sheer level of soft power and political control she commands over the demon nobility. But standing in the shadows, Mara Beliax lurks with pure venom in her eyes. While the rest of the court bows in admiration, this bitter monster downs her drink with total disgust, openly calling the entire spectacle a load of trash. Even as her own attendant tries to calm her down, Mara's hatred only burns hotter. Refusing to play along with court etiquette, the rogue noble twists the ritual into a malicious declaration of war. Instead of a divine gift, she spits out a brutal curse, wishing her target to be consumed by agonizing desire until they die clawing at their own flesh, leaving her servant shivering in utter shock. Her unchecked jealousy quickly explodes into murderous intent. Unable to stomach being overshadowed for another second, Mara chokes back her rage and vows to drag Aeneas down into the dirt, marking the beginning of a deadly feud that will echo across worlds. Back in the present day, our boy's sharp-eyed cat familiar pieces together Mara's shadowy background. After securing a seat among the 12 black seats, the greedy witch was caught red-handed stealing from the well of demon souls, forcing her to flee into the human world where she unleashed pure carnage. The young glasses kid nervously questions why this dangerous outcast is targeting Manhwa and whether she already sees through Rabas' human disguise. But the exiled prince stays completely cold, calculating that if the witch actually knew his true identity as a Lavi, she would have ambushed him the second he arrived. Rabas candidly admits that in his current severely weakened state, he stands no chance in a direct confrontation against Mara, especially with those abnormal brats lurking by her side. Hearing this harsh reality, his fiery cat familiar panics, shouting that they must rapidly surge the power of the demon Bloodstone before declaring step 1 of their counteroffensive, tearing the entire neighborhood apart to launch a ruthless witch hunt. Meanwhile, at the local supermarket, Manhwa pushes a shopping cart alongside her visibly terrified mother. Having watched horrific danger follow her daughter from the moment she entered the industry, the heartbroken mom begs her to quit while she still can. But the brave teenager puts on a bright face, reassuring her that the manager promised the insane murderer responsible for the chaos would be locked up soon. As they pass the pet supplies, her mother softly reminds her of her childhood dream to become a veterinarian. But looking at the shelves, Manhwa knows fulfilling that peaceful dream would simply take too much time. Gripping the handle of her cart with white-knuckled determination, the desperate girl vows in her heart to drag her mother out of their hellish household as fast as possible through her own blood and sweat. Turning back to her mother, she flashes an energetic grin, insisting that huge opportunities like this only come once, and that becoming a famous idol will earn them mountains of money. But her mother can barely stomach the thought of being separated. Overwhelmed by unbearable guilt, the tearful woman bites her lip and blames herself, confessing that if she hadn't remarried, Manhwa never would have lost her magical powers. Manhwa instantly reassures her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder and insisting her father's tragic death was never her fault. See, before the marriage, that two-faced stepfather put on a saintly front, completely deceiving their mother and kids before revealing his true sinister colors. Refusing to let that abusive monster ruin their lives forever, the brave girl beams with unwavering resolve, promising her mother to endure every trial until they secure their freedom. Hoping to harvest energy, the crew heads to a crowded amusement park where our exiled prince tries to act tough on a massive roller coaster. Bragging about how pathetic humans are for screaming, his royal pride is instantly shattered when the extreme ride completely wrecks his stomach. Fresh out of the restroom, the embarrassed Demon King violently denies puking from fear, blaming spoiled food while secretly vowing to never board that death trap again. Regrouping in front of a looming haunted house attraction, their blue-haired demon ally lays out her critical intelligence report. She confirms that an escaped demon prisoner from the human realm's lockdown has successfully evaded official surveillance. Using her sharp tracking instincts, she pinpointed the fugitive's exact hiding spot inside this very building, prompting Rabas to sternly demand the target's identity. She reveals the enemy is Scroom, a monstrous beast that feeds directly on human terror. Scroom harvests high-pitched screams born from genuine fear, translating those acoustic sound waves into demon realm frequencies to constantly supercharge its strength. Because its power scales with human panic, setting a trap using someone who screams easily is their most effective strategy to force it out. Hearing that strategy, our boy immediately locks his eyes on his timid human classmate, declaring him finally useful as live bait. The glasses kid panics instantly, screeching at the top of his lungs that he is a fearless man who has never screamed a single day in his life. Ignoring his desperate protests, Rabas cold-heartedly drags the terrified teenager into the attraction while Street stays behind to guard the entrance. Stepping inside the ominous maze, Rabas scoffingly inspects the fake hanging corpses and cheap spider webs, utterly unimpressed by human horror decorations. But as he marches down the dark corridor with his terrified classmate clinging tightly to his arm, his sharp demonic senses suddenly ping. Beyond the fake props, he senses a genuinely dark and unnatural aura lurking in the shadows. As they creep through the haunted attraction, a hideous, monstrous head suddenly plunges from the darkness. The brutal jump scare completely shatters our boy's calm facade, forcing the exiled prince to scream at the top of his lungs right alongside his terrified classmate as both teenagers cling to each other in absolute panic. Desperate to save his royal pride, the embarrassed Demon King violently chokes back his shame, insisting he was merely pretending to scream just to test the enemy's reaction. But his sharp-eyed classmate instantly calls out the blatant lie, mocking him for letting out the first genuine shriek of his entire life. Deep within the shadows, a sinister demonic eye snaps wide open. Ignoring the petrified kid beside him, our boy reveals his true tactical calculation. While absorbing human malice slowly charges the demon bloodstone, devouring the far denser evil of a high-tier demon will release massive tides of dark power all at once. From the darkness, the monstrous fugitive scroom descends, its razor-sharp teeth glistening as it salivates over the high-pitched acoustic energy. Floating above the helpless teenagers, the nightmare creature savors the pure, unrefined panic vibrating through the air like a newborn's first cry while the glass's kid hyperventilates in total horror. Hungry to gorge on even greater terror, the terrifying beast extends its massive, razor-sharp claws straight toward the helpless kid's neck, demanding him to scream until his lungs collapse as the petrified student realizes they are face-to-face with a genuine demonic monster. Before those lethal talons can tear into his classmate, Rabus steps forward and catches the monster's massive arm mid-air with zero effort. Shielding the shivering teenager behind his back, the exiled royal commands the creature to back off, coldly declaring that no low-level monster touches his personal servant. Reeling from the sudden physical stoppage, Scroom gazes down in utter disbelief, sensing an unnatural aura and realizing this boy is no human. With his eyes glowing vivid crimson and royal authority surging, our boy flashes a sinister, villainous smirk, asking the demon what pathetic screams will erupt from its own mouth. A blood-curdling scream echoes as the banished demon prince turns back with a sinister grin. With his eyes flaring crimson, our boy is ready to show these fools what true terror looks like. The heavy scent of demon blood hangs thick in the air, instantly putting Strit on high alert. Seeing Rabus' crimson eyes glow with unrestrained authority, his loyal follower dramatically swears to follow the Demon King's heir into the absolute depths of darkness. Rabus cuts the theatrical speech short without missing a beat. He orders her to track down every remaining rogue demon hiding in the city so he can hunt down, eliminate them, and systematically harvest their power to restore his lost strength. Their first target is Apep Sheol, a sinister creature that lurks around unsuspecting humans and leeches off the evil energy in their lungs. Before this foul pest can even react, Rabus snatches it by the skull with a cold, terrifying gaze, dragging it straight toward execution. The 18-year-old demon prince rips the parasite's life force out with violent precision. Even as the disgusting stench of corrupt energy fills the alley, our boy swallows his disgust and absorbs every single drop into his own body. Moving swiftly to the next target, Rabus confronts Askra, a demon that feeds on the memories of intoxicated humans. With cold tactical efficiency, Rabus slashes right through the beast, siphoning its blue energy directly into his eye. See demons who flee to the human realm lose their original power while passing through the dimensional barrier, forcing them to become parasites on human hosts just to stay alive. Hearing this dark truth about human possession leaves Lil Bro trembling like a leaf. With a massive pool of stolen mana now surging through his veins, Rabus summons a dark crimson aura into his palm. The demon prince is finally ready to test if his true magic can ignite in this mortal shell. The glasses-wearing follower recoils in absolute shock as a brilliant red aura flares up, igniting a demonic blade right before his eyes. Our boy smirks while holding Damrakal, his true signature sword, admitting that his current mortal vessel can only manifest a mere fraction of its ultimate power. As the crimson flames flicker out, the kid nervously asks if sending Strit out on scouting duty alone is really a safe idea. Rabus coolly reassures him that her demonic energy is so faint and insignificant that hostile forces will never even detect her presence. Meanwhile, outside a massive corporate building, the little bat hangs upside down from a tree branch in total silence. Her stomach starts rumbling loudly, and before long, the famished scout throws a dramatic tantrum, screaming that she is going to starve to death on the job. Just as she complains, her slit pupil eyes lock onto a strained brown worm slithering across the pavement below. Swooping down like a dark shadow, Strit dives headfirst and clamps her claws onto the squirming parasite. But the moment she captures her prey, her expression turns into pure horror as she senses the grotesque nature of what she's holding. The wriggling insect is oozing with Mara's distinct demonic energy, confirming that another dangerous rogue demon is operating right in the city. Realizing the massive threat this poses, the loyal bat clamps the bug tightly in her mouth and takes off into the night sky, flying at top speed to deliver the crucial warning back to her master. Meanwhile, down at an underground parking facility, a sleek luxury sedan quietly pulls out onto the main road. Inside the back seat, a blue-haired lunatic excitedly brags to his hooded mother, boasting about how cleanly he knocked out an innocent high school girl. From under her dark cowl, the hideous mother emits a sinister purple aura, letting out a horrific, drooling laugh of approval. The unhinged kid aggressively grabs the limp body of the captive, named Young-ah, urging the driver to speed away into the night. Trapped in the hands of these sinister kidnappers, the unconscious girl slips even deeper into darkness as her vision completely fades to black. Back at the alleyway, Strit zooms back to Rabis, frantically squawking an urgent warning. But with the squirming demon worm wedged firmly inside her tiny beak, her frantic speech comes out as total muffled nonsense, forcing the cold demon prince to order her to spit out the bug before speaking. Strit spits the vile parasite onto the pavement, allowing Rabis to inspect the writhing creature with cold precision. The demon prince instantly identifies it as Mara's parasite, deducing that the ancient demon lost her original form while passing through the dimensional barrier. Because human vessels decay rapidly under corrupt demonic power, Mara is desperately hunting for a fresh, compatible host before her current body falls apart. The alarming truth strikes like a lightning bolt as the glasses-wearing follower remembers the suspicious scouting offer, realizing Mara was targeting Minha's body all along. Rabis confirms that the ancient witch has always been obsessed with youth and beauty, bitterly scoffing at how a hag far older than his own mother is still chasing vanity. When the kid trembles and asks about his mother's age, Rabis casually reveals she's over 6,000 years old in human years. Pondering his own staggering lifespan, our boy thinks back to an ancient memory from his youth, when his uncle Varkan brought him to the mortal realm. Overlooking a massive desert construction, the arrogant uncle loudly boasted that the monumental stone pyramids being erected by ancient humans were built in his honor, declaring himself an untouchable god among lesser beings. However, Rabis' analytical cousin immediately shattered the uncle's grand ego, pointing out that the mortals were actually building the pyramids to worship Ra, the god of the heavens. Infuriated that humans would worship someone he had already beaten in combat, the brash uncle simply laughed it off and claimed the monuments as his own through brute force anyway. Snapping back to reality, the terrified student does the math in his head, completely flabbergasted that Rabis has been alive for over 4,000 years. But there is zero time to waste on ancient history as Strit cries out in absolute terror, warning her master that Mara is actively closing in to consume his sister's soul right now. A grim, deadly silence falls over the demon prince as the gravity of the situation settles in. His piercing eyes darken with lethal intent as he comes to the terrifying realization that Minha is in immediate danger of being devoured. Elsewhere, deep within a dark forest at an isolated, abandoned building, the luxury sedan rolls to a stop. The unhinged kidnappers step out into the shadows, dragging the helpless, unconscious girl toward the hideout to present her directly to Mara. Deep at an abandoned corporate construction site, the kidnappers haul their helpless high school captive straight down into an eerie underground sanctuary. The mother coolly reassures her unhinged son that this secret hideout rests within a pocket-dimensional rift, pinched directly between the demon and human realms, a dark, isolated blind spot, completely concealed from the watchful gaze of the heavens above. As they step into the central chamber, a horrifying sight unfolds right before their eyes. Row after row of unconscious human hosts lie completely motionless across the cold floor like helpless livestock waiting for slaughter, each victim infused with corrupt demonic magic and sprouting sinister purple flowers from their skin. The mother freezes in shock at the staggering scale of this dark operation. A horned demon tending to the crops steps out from the shadows, clutching a dark purple flower while angrily demanding to know who dares trespass in his domain. But the hideous hag doesn't back down for a single second. She casts aside her dark shroud to reveal her true identity as Mara Belias, boldly declaring that this entire dimensional rift and all its precious human vessels now belong to her. Deep inside a subterranean hall, an arrogant demon corners a disgraced former Black Throne, mocking her drained mana and demanding she surrender the territory. But tension spikes when her tall companion carelessly steps near his precious purple flowers, provoking an angry warning from the intruder. The hooded fugitive freely admits her vulnerable state, burning through her remaining power just to maintain a fragile human body. However, she remains supremely confident, revealing her dark backup plan, a squad of human-demon hybrid children bred for the sole purpose of serving as her shields. The horned demon recoils in disgust, calling her pathetic for hiding behind her own children as meat shields. The ruthless mother scoffs at his moral outrage, insisting it is a child's natural duty to protect their creator before ordering him to grab his stinky weeds and get out. Hearing his cherished blossoms branded as stinky weeds drives the horned demon past his breaking point. With frantic rage twisting his face, he screams out in fury and slashes forward with a lethal whip, determined to obliterate the disrespecting intruders on the spot. Before the lethal strike can connect, her purple-haired hybrid son casually intercepts the assault, violently slamming the enraged demon into the hard stone floor. As the intruder groans on the ground, the wicked mother grins with dark satisfaction at her creation's terrifying strength. See, forging these human-demon hybrids required unspeakable cruelty. In a horrifying flashback, the monstrous mother forces a stolen purple elixir into her terrified infants, brutally pinning them down and compelling them to swallow while they choke and weep in helpless agony. That stolen fluid was soul spring water, harvested from Jar Nahim in the deepest abyssal valley of the demon realm. Formed from the tears of the creator god, this mystical substance is the true source of all mana, and the only divine holy water capable of satisfying her insatiable greed. Cursing the great demon king Gamadare Vindica for selfishly hoarding the sacred soul spring water, the ruthless mother forced the purple divine liquid down her weeping infants' throats. Her terrifying sacrifice had one cold, calculated goal: forging hybrid bodyguards powerful enough to shield her until she locates the mysterious Surkael hidden deep within the human realm. Back in the present, Rabus and his squad follow Mara's heavy demonic stench along a dark forest path. The trail leads directly to a massive under-construction building towering over the trees, where their blue-haired demon tracker clutches her sensitive, aching nose and confirms that the evil presence is lurking right inside. As the panicked high schooler frantically begs our undercover demon lord to rescue Manhwa, Rabus nonchalantly slings an arm around the boy and drags him toward the gloomy structure. The kid stammers that he will only be a useless burden, but Rabus shuts him down with cold efficiency, declaring he will make an excellent meat shield. Noticing the looming danger inside, their blue-haired demon companion attempts to stay safely behind, cheering them on from a distance, but Rabus instantly crushes her escape plan, ordering her straight into the building to match enemy numbers and leaving the trembling demon desperately questioning her life choices. Inside the subterranean hideout, a violent purple magic circle ignites across the cold floor. The kidnapped girl lies motionless at the center of the complex glowing array while the disgraced Black Throne gloats in dark anticipation, impatiently waiting for her ritual spell to take hold. On the other side of the chamber, the bloodied, horned intruder pathetically grovels on the ground, begging Lady Mara to spare his life in exchange for aiding her operations in the human world. Her purple-haired hybrid son plants a heavy boot on the intruder's back, laughing as he claims the beaten demon to handle all their tedious chores. Surveying the subterranean hall littered with grotesque hybrid corpses along the walls, the tension inside reaches critical mass. The arrogant mother mocks her crippled prisoner, while her purple-haired hybrid son instantly locks eyes on the intruders, recognizing the panicked high schooler cowering right next to our undercover demon lord. Spotting the flour-encrusted corpse of their missing classmate Wai Youngmu pinned like a specimen to the wall, Rabus coldly reminds his trembling student that he was seconds away from sharing the exact same nightmare. The sickening reality of the demon world hits the terrified kid like a sledgehammer. The bloodied horned intruder snaps, connecting the dots that Rabus was the one who foiled his plans. But before any tactics can be drawn, their blue-haired demon companion recklessly blabbers Rabus's royal identity at full blast, revealing him as the prince cast down for exterminating the noble Boer family. The bombshell revelation shatters the room. The disgraced mother recoils in shock, while the bloodied Boer survivor realizes that the infamous butcher who wiped out his entire lineage is now trapped in a weak human body, giving him a golden shot to avenge his family with his own hands. Convinced that her arch-nemesis Aeneas personally dispatched her son to the human realm just to crush her operations, the wicked former Black Throne erupts into an unhinged frenzy of murderous hatred. Rabus quickly runs the tactical math, knowing his restricted mana cannot comfortably handle 3 dangerous foes at once while managing a potential backstab. Staying completely unbothered by the threat, our boy nonchalantly tells the vengeful demon to get out of his sight. That casual disrespect pushes the enraged Bower demon past his breaking point. Screaming that the banished prince no longer holds any power in the human world, he lunges forward with frantic murderous intent, determined to slay Rabus on the spot. Flashing his glowing red demonic eye, Rabus erupts in a terrifying rage, shouting at the horned demon to shut up and get out before he dies on the spot. The bloodied Boer survivor recoils in absolute terror, his arrogant revenge fantasy instantly crumbling into pure panic as he faces the monster who wiped out his clan. Channeling pink demonic mana straight into his human fist, our boy issues a cold decree for every demon hiding on Earth. Rabus, the Master of Blood, has descended, and anyone stepping out of line will be brutally hunted down and slaughtered. The intruder gasps in horror, unable to comprehend how a banished prince can unleash mana inside a human vessel. Realizing he is hopelessly outmatched against the royal butcher, the terrified intruder abandons all pride. He bolts across the subterranean hall and smashes straight through the window into the night sky, fleeing for his life before Rabus obliterates him. Turning his unbothered gaze toward the disgraced former Black Throne, Rabus mockingly addresses her as an old lady, declaring that stealing young bodies ought to come with bone-crushing pain. The wicked mother shrieks in manic fury at the ultimate disrespect from her enemy's child. Her explosive anger forces Mara to hack up a mouthful of blood as her hybrid son holds her back. Wiping her bloody lips with a manic grin, the monstrous mother gloats, wondering what horror great demon King Aeneas will feel when her cherished child is torn to pieces by Mara's own creations. Rabus just smirks with terrifying confidence, igniting dark mana around his fingers as he throws the threat right back. He cannot wait to see the expression on a bitter woman consumed by lifelong jealousy when her precious hybrid squad gets slaughtered by Aeneas' son. Enraged, the crazy mother orders her hybrid sons Han Su and Han Yong to bring her the arrogant brat's torn tongue. Her purple-haired hybrid son casually steps up, swinging a massive spiked mace on a purple glowing magic chain with a cocky grin, eager to claim first blood. Her second hybrid creation steps forward, drawing purple demonic blades with a stone-cold glare. With two brainwashed bodyguards ready to tear Rabus apart for their mother's ambition, the stage is set for a brutal showdown in the subterranean hall. Our undercover demon prince isn't flinching for a second. This fight is about to turn legendary. The hostile twins launch a reckless double team, swinging a massive spiked flail and a heavy razor blade in a total frenzy. They scream that they will shut Rabus up for good, but their opening salvo is dangerously uncoordinated. Our boy easily weaves right through the chaotic assault, parrying their steel and turning their aggressive momentum against them. Instead of combining their strength, the assassins turn on each other mid-strike. Han Su bellows at his partner to stay out of his way, but Han Young snaps right back, ordering him to shut his mouth and cover her rear. Watching their complete lack of teamwork, Rabus taunts them both, knowing their own friendly fire will tear them apart before they ever reach him. When Han Su nearly takes a hit from his own partner's sword, his composure crumbles into hysterical shrieks. Our young general coolly analyzes their personalities right in the heat of combat. With one reckless idiot pushing forward and one arrogant duelist refusing to back down, Rabus finds the perfect pair of targets to divide and destroy. He surges directly into the danger zone, clashing weapons in a violent spray of sparks. Rabus catches Han Young's blade mid-strike and deflects the incoming spiked flail in one seamless motion. The heavy chain rattles back into Han Su's hands as he grunts in frustration, unable to break through our boy's ironclad defense. Han Young tries to adjust her angle, but Rabus moves far faster, finding the fatal blind spot in her stance. With a swift, merciless counterslash, his red blade carves straight across her midsection. A crimson spray explodes in midair, sending the female assassin staggering backward with an agonized groan. As blood drips from his weapon, Rabus takes note of their unusual resilience. Even with mixed demon blood, the twins wield a surprising amount of dark energy. Our boy grimly wonders what kind of horrific modifications Mara inflicted on these siblings to grant them such unnatural power in battle. Seeing his own partner sliced open, Han Su only cackles with twisted glee, mocking her downfall while swearing to rip out Rabus's tongue himself. He whips his chain with insane speed, driving the massive spiked flail straight into Rabus's torso. The heavy iron head strikes home, drawing blood and forcing a grunt from our protagonist. Han Young lunges back into the fight with lethal speed, aiming her dual razor blades straight for Rabus's neck. Our boy barely dodges the deadly purple arc in time, leaving the female assassin utterly stunned that he managed to weave out of harm's way mid-strike. Outraged that his target almost fell to his own partner, Han Su screams madly and whips his heavy spiked flail through the air. But Rabus coolly maneuvers right through their crossfire, turning their chaotic double team into absolute friendly fire madness. Our young general locks his bloody sword directly against Han Young's twin blades, absorbing the full weight of her impact. Driven by pure hatred, the female assassin grits her teeth and mutters death threats while trying to force his weapon down. Rabus violently repels her twin blades and slides backward, smoothly creating distance across the ruined floor to catch his breath while keeping both opponents right in his sightline. Realizing his current mana reserve is too low to overpower both assassin siblings head-on, Rabus formulates a clever psychological tactic. He shouts out a blatant taunt, casually praising Han Young as the stronger big sister. The simple trick works better than expected. Hansu completely loses his composure, shrieking at the top of his lungs that he was born 18 minutes before her. As he swings his spiked chain in an insane rage, Rabus can only deadpan at how ridiculously easy he was to manipulate. Hansu's unhinged flail strikes smash wildly around the area, disrupting Han Young's footwork and forcing her to retreat. She angrily berates him for invading her close-quarters range, but the hysterical brother screams back, obsessed with delivering Rabus's corpse to their mother first. Watching Hansu's fury make his attack patterns rough and reckless, Rabus knows his plan has succeeded. He calmly raises his red blade while the idiot brother charges forward, stepping directly into our boy's fatal strike zone. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the battlefield, a blue-haired warrior clashes head-on with Mara of the 12 Black Seats. The warrior calls out Mara for becoming a grotesque shell unable to control her own greed, expressing deep disappointment in someone she once revered. Enraged after being mocked as a grotesque monster, Mara explodes in a hysterical frenzy. Her dark scythe arm slashes straight through the blue-haired warrior's guard, carving a deep, bloody wound across her torso. Bleeding severely, the horned elf warrior screams for Lord Shan to act, sending the human student sprinting at full speed toward the purple barrier containing Manhwa. Xian hurls his body forward and slams his bare hands directly onto the violent magical sphere. Intense temperature swings of dark energy instantly scorch and freeze his skin, inflicting unimaginable agony. But seeing Manhwa lying helpless and unconscious under a glowing spell circle inside, the desperate boy ignores the horrific burns and screams at the top of his lungs for her to wake up. Over on the main floor, the horned elf warrior throws herself back into the fray, locking weapons with Mara's terrifying tendrils to hold the line. Violent purple sparks and dark magic detonate between them as she frantically yells over her shoulder, telling Xian to ignore her safety and focus entirely on breaking Lady Manhwa free. The barrier's violent feedback repels Xian, hurling him backward onto the floor. Grabbing his agonizingly scorched, trembling hands, the boy breaks down in tears, overwhelmed by his complete helplessness as a weak human. But as warm memories of his peaceful school days with Manhwa flash in his mind, his despair transforms into a wave of unstoppable resolve. Refusing to let his precious friend perish, the human student grits his teeth and squeezes his charred fingers into a tight fist. With tears streaming down his face, he screams a desperate battle cry and hurls a shattering bare-knuckle punch straight into the dark energy barrier. Meanwhile, Mara's ruthless tendrils carve another brutal slash through the blue-haired warrior, sending crimson blood flying as she collapses in agony. The demonic commander mockingly tells her to end this hopeless fight, leaving the injured warrior terrified by how a member of the 12 Black Seats possesses such lethal power even inside a decaying host body. Mara cackles with pure cruelty, whipping her scythe arms through the air in massive dark arcs while mocking her opponent's foolish belief that an ordinary mortal could ever alter their inevitable demise. Mara savagely overpowers the blue-haired warrior, hurling dark energy blades that pin her body directly against the stone wall. The elf screams in agony as dark magic carves straight into her shoulders, leaving her trapped and completely unable to break free. Cruel and triumphant, the demonic commander sneers down at her helpless opponent, commanding her to watch closely as she destroys the human student next. Refusing to let the young boy perish, the pinned warrior ignores her horrific wounds and screams at Lord Xian to flee for his life. The human student snaps his head back in absolute horror, his eyes widening in panic as he realizes the unstoppable monster has set her sights directly on him.